Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Edgecombe County Commissioners to order. Mr. Evans, safety instructions, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. And before Ms. Best reads our safety instructions, I want to let everyone know Commissioner Boswell has joined us remotely.
Okay.
I just want to check in one more time. Mr. Boswell, can you hear us?
I'm here.
All right, thank you, sir.
Good evening. To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance as needed. In the case of a tornado warning, please exit this room into the hallway where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. And in the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight. Our staff will provide additional assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Reverend Hines, would you please?
Father, we give thanks for this day. Thank you for life, health, and strength. Thank you for all the blessings you've bestowed upon us. We ask that you would bless our hearts and our minds, that we will think on the things that will make our county a better place in which to live, and that we will serve honestly and humbly before you. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
You've received the minutes in your package of the previous meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Our next agenda item is a public hearing. It's called to consider a 9-month moratorium on acceptance of special use permits for level 2 and 3 solar energy conversion systems. UDO Special Use Permit Section 2-3-20 Solar Energy Conversion. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the notice?
Yes, sir. Notice is hereby given per NC General Statute 160D-107 that the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners will conduct a public hearing on Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioners Room on the second floor of the Edgecombe County Administration Building at 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina, to accept public comments on a proposed 9-month moratorium on acceptance of special use permit applications for level 2 and 3 solar energy conversion systems, solar farms within Edgecombe County. Citizens who wish to address the board on this matter may do so at the meeting during the public hearing. Citizens may also submit their comments via email to publiccomments@edgecombeco.com or by mail to Tammy Faison, Clerk to the Board, P.O. Box 10, Tarboro, North Carolina 27886. All written comments received by 5 o'clock p.m. on November 1st will be read at the meeting. By order of the Board of Commissioners of Edgecombe County, Tammy Faison, Clerk to the Board.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. North Carolina General Statute 160D-107 grants counties the authority to impose temporary moratoria on certain types of development approvals, including but not limited to accepting special use permit applications. As you're aware, within the last several months, we've seen an increase in the interest in applications for special use permits for level 2 and level 3 solar energy conversion systems, more formally recognized as solar farms, within the county, including 3 pending special use permit applications submitted recently, which has highlighted the necessity to review the county's ordinances related to such systems, which have not been reviewed or updated in several years. You all have identified, and we as staff as well, several concerns regarding the potential impact of large solar energy conversion system developments, including but not limited to land use compatibility, the preservation of agriculture and rural character, environmental considerations, decommissioning requirements, and adequacy of existing infrastructure to support increased solar energy conversion system developments. And that has prompted us to consider possibility of changes in our ordinance. The changes will certainly depend on the action of this board, pending your hearing input from our citizens tonight. Changes could possibly be change in the size of solar farms, that are allowed within certain districts or allowed anywhere in the county, the zoning in which they're allowed, changes perhaps to decommissioning requirements in the ordinance, or whatever changes you may see necessary. So we published a notice for our hearing tonight in the Rocky Mountain Telegram on October 23rd and October 30th of this public hearing tonight. We ask that you accept public comments on a proposed 9-month moratorium on acceptance of special use permit applications for Level 2 and Level 3 solar energy conversion systems within the county.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call for public comments. If there's anybody here who would like to speak on this, would you please come forward and state your name and address for the public record? If there's anybody who would like to speak during this public hearing, please come forward.
Roscoe N. Ellis III, live at Old Market Road, Fountain, North Carolina, in Edgecombe County. I own a 82-acre plot of land on Old Market Road in Fountain area. I was originally not notified by the solar companies that there was going to be meetings in Farmville. They somehow forgot my address, or didn't realize I owned property. I've got 3/4 of a mile of property line where they plan on putting a solar farm next door. I did end up attending the second 2 meetings, and I learned some things from them. One is the company that's doing this is basically a general contractor. So what they do, they come in, they find a hub, which is in Wilson County, and then they start searching for landowners to lease them land to build solar panels to feed that hub. A couple large landowners in the Macclesfield, Wilson County, Fountain area have agreed to lease them land. None of those owners live in Edgecombe County or adjacent to any of those solar farms proposed. The other thing that really bothers me is just the 95-acre block next to me that's involved. It runs road to road, Otter Creek Church Road, all the way to Old Market Road, and continues on into Wilson County right on to Aspen Grove Church Road. It's a long tract that's going to be fenced in, which means no large wildlife movement. Also, that land is probably 75% timber and wooded. Some of it's cut down, but of course it's been reseeded and is growing back. That's a large, and the total thing encompasses approximately 1,500 acres. They say they're only going to build on like 800 of it, but it's all encompassed in their project. I think more study needs to be done on the doing away with that much wildlife. And my argument then was there's areas where you've got 2,000-acre farms and lots of cleared land where wildlife and vegetation, trees, forests don't have to be disturbed. And they're talking about coming in and doing away with acres upon acres of woodland and road to road and fencing it in. Also, the drainage to the 95 acres and the 10 acres behind me that they're planning on building on next to me, it all drains onto my property, my creeks. So if there was any type of contamination, anything to that degree, I'd have to deal with it. Being that this company is a contractor, once it's built, once they've secured everything, made a deal with Duke Power to sell it through the transmission lines in Wilson County, then this company turns it over to another company who they can't even say who they're going to turn it over to yet. They don't have a buyer for it yet. So basically, they come in, secure everything, get y'all to pass the zoning, build it, and hand it over, and they wash their hands of it. They promise all these wonderful borders where you're not gonna be able to see it, this, that, and the other. Of course, mine's farmland, so they're not gonna build any borders next to my land. And I hate to say it, but y'all live in Edgecombe County, you've been around, you see what these borders turn into. And there's no enforcement of them. They're supposed to be these huge borders where they can't be seen, this, that, and the other. The bushes die, nobody enforces it, they don't come back. These big companies, how do you make them enforce it? I think that's the issue. I worry about the wind from doing away with that much forest. Just from the trees being cut until they grow back, you can tell a huge wind increase already in our area. Again, the small blocks in the southern end of Edgecombe County, if you look at your maps, the small blocks of land there is much more condensed. And doing 15 acres in Wilson County, that part of Wilson County and Edgecombe County, affects so many more people, so many more landowners and homeowners. It's not like the north end of the county where there's huge tracts of land that aren't built on, or, you know, there's not houses every 200 yards. In short, I really feel like more study needs to be done on the effects of heating and cooling when you're taking away forests, adding solar panels, evicting the wildlife from that much land, stopping the movement of the wildlife from parcel to parcel. Just more needs to be done. I definitely hope you go with the moratorium. Thank you.
Is there anybody else to speak?
Is this about the solar panels?
This, sir, is about the moratorium.
The moratorium, yes, sir.
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to speak about it.
Please come forward, sir, and state your name and address.
I've already gotten into solar panels, and I can tell you, I wish I hadn't gotten into them, but,
Can you give us your name and address, sir?
Walter Phillip Bullock, Battleboro, North Carolina. And I don't know, the decommissioning is the problem. If anything happens, the solar cells, you got a high, you got a low. Good thing is the money, the taxes. These guys pay good for this land. I farm. Farm is low. You can't make any income much. Time you pay your bills, there's nothing left hardly. So they say, yes, we'll take your land, put solar cells on it. And then decommission. Tornado comes through, hurricane, those cells are gonna lift off of those racks. They're bolted to the racks. And where they gonna blow, nobody knows. What's in them? I don't know. They tell you it's good things in them. They could be reconditioned, resold. But who knows? It's a new technology. And that's the main thing with me. Now the county has signed a decommissioning clause. So I asked the people, I said, look, if something happens, they go down, you go out of business, you go bankrupt, who's gonna clean them up? Well, we're gonna hire an engineer to tell you that those racks are worth metal prices. We'll get the money back on metal to the scrapyard. But we know nothing of the solar cells. You don't have a dumping pit for them. They don't even know where to carry them to. And that's the problem. I don't know. I hate to say it, but it's the honest to God truth. And we need a dumping pit for those panels to go to. If they have no home, who's gonna take them? I don't know no other state that takes them, but the people come in from other states to sell them, to set them up. North Carolina, Edgecombe County is a puppet. Do you want to all be puppets? If you do, join in, take an extra $1 or $2. But if you want to live and learn, get down to the bottom of it and say, where are these cells gonna go to if they lift off these plants and blow to another farmer, another landowner, a yard? Who's gonna pick them up? They can't tell you that. But we got insurance. Insurance only goes so far. You talk about millions of dollars. So we need to think about these things before we go forward. And that's what I had to say. I just got here, but
You said you are a solar farmer,
Yeah, yes, sir.
and you support the moratorium?
I support, I tell you, they've asked me to join in, but, I said, well, tell me how you gonna clean these things up. We don't know. We're just here to help your county out, pay extra taxes. And if they want to be on board, we're gonna let them be on board.
I think that is, that's one of the reasons that we are considering the moratorium to try to help us get some of those questions, those unknown answers that we could put into our ordinance. I think that's one of the
It's
reasons.
a tough decision to make, and I know it's a lot more income, more taxes coming in, a lot more. But money ain't everything, and we've got to consider these things, you know. So,
Thank,
I hate to say it, but do your homework.
Thank you.
is there anybody else to speak?
Good evening, folks. My name is Susan Dwyer. I live at 2138 Otter Creek Church Road. Right in the middle of this latest solar farm proposal. And I do have property that borders on both Otter Creek Church Road as well as Old Market Road. It's a small area. I have livestock. I have a lot of wildlife. And all of these solar farms concern me because of those things. You're losing forest, which is our cooling. It is our habitat for wildlife. It contributes to our clean air. We're losing farmland, 1,500 acres in this one particular instance, which is cropland, farmland, the wildlife. There's water flow under all of these panels. Regardless of where the site is, there is going to be an increased water flow because there's nothing but grass. You know, there's no trees to stop it. The other thing which another gentleman spoke about is the natural wind barrier. And where I live, it has really increased just because the trees were cut down close by. I lost the whole side of a building just for one of those little whirly-jig, took hay bales and just threw them in the air and tossed the side of the building off. So the wind damage, the debris, just as this other gentleman just spoke about, decommissioning is an issue. Where does that go? When there's a storm, where does the debris go? Now, they say the panels can be recycled, it's glass and different particles that can be used. But if they blow up and scatter all over the place, what happens to our farmland, our stock? And I have cows, sheep, and horses. Another thing that someone hasn't mentioned yet is fire. I mean, you've got these great big acres of cleared land with just grassland under it. It's not going to be watered in dry conditions like we had last summer. So it's very easy to have brush fire and just take off. And our rural fire departments are probably not well equipped to handle that. The eyesore, I don't think they're pretty. I don't think anybody thinks they're pretty, regardless of what buffers or vegetations are put on there. Again, down the road, who's going to enforce keeping those replanted or watered or whatever needs to be happening? The decommissioning is another big concern of mine. Just not only the panels, but we have these big batteries that those panels are going to feed into, in all likelihood, to store what's captured and pass it on to the energy company, Duke, Dominion, whoever it is that's looking for it. And then again, as Ross mentioned, the population density. Where this solar farm is proposed, there are a lot of small acres or small homes. It's not just hundreds and hundreds of acres. And what's been cobbled together for these 1,500 acres is several pieces across 3 counties. Again, it's relatively speaking, for Edgecombe, it's a more dense population. That's all I have to say.
Thank
I
you.
really have a problem with these.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jet Webb, Jettwebb. I live on 3535 Thick Pen Road, Tarboro, North Carolina, 27886. It's close to a little town called Canita. I will tell you that I was born and bred right here in Edgecombe County. I used to farm, small family farm, me and my father, and I am involved as a property owner with solar. I can put some of the conjecture, I can put some of the rhetoric and opinions that have been spoken about tonight at rest. I've been through it from A to Z, and I am pro-solar. And I'll get into a little bit why here in a bit. Currently work at Rocky Mount Fire Department for 20 years, and I just want to say that I'm against the moratorium. I believe in landowner rights. I know that the 5th and the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects landowner rights. I know that there are multiple general statutes on the North Carolina side that speak the same. I believe that as long as, and this is general statute talk, as long as it does not affect the health or safety of anyone around, you should be able to do good and well what you want with your land. It don't matter if you own 2,000 acres or 2/10 of an acre. If you want to go out there and mow it, if you want to sell it, if you want to put livestock on it, or if you want to develop it in solar, whatever you want to do, you should be able to do that as long as it doesn't affect the health or safety of anyone else. Solar does not affect the health or safety of other people. This is 50-year-old technology. Photovoltaic solar panels have been around forever. I think Nixon put them on the rooftop of the White House way back in whenever he was president, before my time. A lot of people talked about, the health risk or the land being sterilized. What are we going to do? How do we decommission these things? They're largely made of 3 components. That's silica, which is a fancy name for glass, aluminum, which is the racking for the panels, and iron, which is what holds up the racking in the arrays. All 3 of these, glass, aluminum, and iron, are 3 of the most renewable or 3 of the most recycled products that there are out there. There is a place specially designated at the Edgecombe County dump site for busted panels. They get shipped off and 100% fully recycled. There are more than enough places to recycle these panels. They were talking about decommissioning of the sites. Most or not, and this is in Edgecombe County, have not even been forced to be bonded because of what Mr. Bullock mentioned earlier, the fact that the infrastructure of the actual sites are worth more than what it would cost to decommission the site. A lot of people don't like how they look, but everybody likes that when they go home tonight and flip on the light switch, we have electricity, we have heat, we're able to cook with electricity. Nobody wants the land to go get subdeveloped for houses, but yet we all got to have a place to sleep and lay our head at night. If this county wants to grow and we build tax base, we need to be friendly to the ones who are coming in and trying to develop in the county. We don't exactly have people knocking on our doors to do so. It was a tragic loss when QVC burnt to the ground, loss of life and infrastructure for the county. What are we going to do to replace this? If there's one thing Edgecombe County has, that is tillable ag land. Right by the Edgecombe County website, there are 100,000 acres of tillable land, farmland in Edgecombe County. That is our most abundant natural resource. If a landowner wants to lease his land to a solar company, he should be able to. If we have 100,000 acres of tillable cropland, and I'm a landowner too, let's take a 1,000 acre solar farm. That's a big one now, a 1,000 acre solar farm. If we remove a 1,000 acre solar farm out of 100,000 acres of tillable ag land, that's the equivalent of removing 1 penny out of $1. There's 100 pennies in $1. Let's take 1 penny out. That represents that 1,000 acres. But it gets better. We're taking that penny out and replacing it with a dime's worth of tax base. So you guys, I know you know what deferred taxes are when it comes to farmland. It's at a lower rate. When it goes into solar, it goes into commercial or industrialized tax base. The tax base is what this county desperately needs. They talked about the clearing of the land. Once again, it's just false. It's not true. When we talk about clearing trees, A lot of these sites start out big, 1,000 acres, 16, make up a number, but they don't want to clear woodland because it costs around $2,000 to $3,000 an acre to stump and clear land. It's not cost effective. At the end of the game, when they actually come to fruition to get built, it's mostly cleared land that they do get built on. People talk about it devalues their property. No taxes have ever been dropped in Edgecombe County for devaluation because of solar. Once again, it's its fault. We talked to Mr. Bullock back here. He never said that he was actually involved. He said he was asked to be involved, but he said he was never involved. So I'm curious about that. I have seen these things come from beginning to end. Nash County's motto, and I drive into Rocky Mount every day as a firefighter, it says, where technology meets opportunity. What is our motto here in Edgecombe County? You know, are we looking to culture technology to come in? Are we looking to reduce the tax base? We desperately need these things to support the programs that we have in this county. We don't need to drive them away. That's all I have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for holding this hearing.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your comment.
Could I say
Hold it, Mr. Bullock. Hold your comment, sir. We not going back and forth with each other here. Anybody else? I'll let you hold it. Is there anybody else to speak?
could I go-
Hold it. Gotta let everybody else speak before I let you.
Wade Mayberry, president of a company that owns some farmland here in Edgecombe County. The address for the corporation is 2343 Professional Drive in Rocky Mount. I'd like to support what this last gentleman just said and say that I support property landowner rights too. And I also think that in North Carolina, we need to be focused on global warming. I'm not the normal one to stand up and beat the band for global warming, but the problems we had in Asheville and other places in western North Carolina, I think we need to not forget that Edgecombe County about 20 years ago had a pretty substantial flood as well. And there's a lot of demand for energy. The energy demand is, in some places, starting to talk about nuclear. Would y'all rather change solar farming for nuclear? And maybe it won't be in our back neighborhood, but I know people who were at 3 Mile Island when that happened, and it is not pretty. They are now my age, having cancer, and were in school at that point in time. Everybody came out and said it wasn't a big deal. And I think we need to look at, again, what is our best options for future energy? It's not going down, it's not going away, but I definitely don't want to have nuclear. I don't want to have some other global warming options, and therefore I support at least you guys holding off on the moratorium and moving forward as Edgecombe County to support energy. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? You can come back.
I just spoke a while ago, and I want to say this. I did not know it was a place that would take these solar cells in this county until I heard him talk. So I'm gonna look at it at a different approach if it's a place for these solar cells to go, damaged or decommissioned. If Edgecombe says to me, say, yeah, we'll take your cells, and the people that put these cells in agree to it, I'll sign it right now. But if nobody takes them, this first, they couldn't even find about another state to take these cells. So this gentleman here said, yes, it is somebody. I didn't know it. And for property rights, I'm all for property rights. But I've got 150 acres of solar right, maybe 170 solar today. And another company approached me for 800 acres. And I backed off of them because of the decommissioning. So I don't know, it's much better than farming. And I would like to go that way, but I'm trying to make a decision on health and what they're made of and where they would go if they were damaged before I bite the bullet. And that's the way I feel about it.
Is there anybody else here to speak? Sir, I'm speaking. Is there anybody else? I'm asking for anybody else. No, we can't keep coming back. We can't hold it. No, sir. Hold, please, sir. We can't keep coming back. You've already, we're not debating this. I think we're making your comments, but since I allowed him to come back. Nobody else come back, please come back. Come on. But we're not back and forth on this issue.
All I was gonna say quickly is as far as the de-stumping, deforestation, I've been provided with the maps of planned panels going in the area that I was speaking of, and 65 to 70% of it is woodsland. And they said that's set, that's where they're going. So I did want to clarify that.
Is anybody that has not spoken? Please come forward. Please come forward, please, sir. Please come forward here, please, sir.
My name's Roger Sauerborn. I'm an Edgecombe County landowner. My issue with the solar is that as all the leases I've seen provide no, if you will, cost of innovation bonus for the landowner, okay? I'm so old, I remember when a calculator like this had one memory and cost $125. Big money in the 70s. A lot of difference now. We're seeing improvement in solar efficacy and materials, and just generally speaking, I think we're going to see incremental and maybe massive improvement in solar. So that doesn't particularly address the specifics here, but that's my view. I think it'll be a good thing. Bye.
Anybody else? Hearing none. Any comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, could I just clarify a couple of things before you all take action? The first thing, I want to make sure what you're considering tonight is a moratorium from here forward, if you adopt it tonight, from here forward on accepting any new special use permit applications for solar projects for a 9-month period is what's proposed. It's been mentioned tonight by some that are here that are referring to some projects that special use permit application has already been received. So if you adopt this, if you approve a 9-month moratorium tonight as it's presented, it is to not accept any new applications for that 9-month period. Those projects, and there are 3, 2 of them are later on in the agenda, you will still need to have public hearings on those, take action on those based on the current ordinances. Now, for those that have spoken tonight, on those solar projects that referring to one big one down southern end of the county, if we hold that public hearing next month as proposed, you will still have the opportunity to come back to speak specifically about that project, and I would encourage the citizens to do that. So again, just to clarify, what you're considering now is a moratorium on any new applications. The applications that we have already received would not be, would have to be still considered as they are presented.
Right, and we're not considering banning our solar farms from our county. We consider them just an opportunity to study our existing ordinance that would probably deal with some of the concerns that has been raised tonight. Okay.
Yes, sir. The other thing I wanted to mention, I know it's mentioned a couple of times at least about decommissioning. Our current ordinance, as it speaks to solar energy systems, it requires that a part of the submission be that either a bond is provided to cover the cost of decommissioning whenever they expire their useful life, or they have to show that the value of the equipment at that time exceeds the cost of decommissioning. Now, I will say any landowner who's entering into a lease agreement could certainly choose to have something beyond that. They could choose to have whatever language they'd like to have.
Or not lease.
Or not lease, right.
So
That's correct.
that is in control of the landowner in terms of some of the decommissioning, because they can control, they can add additional language to that lease to deal with that decommissioning. So, and while I think we all here support land rights, but also part of our job is also protecting that public interest. And if this board goes with a moratorium, that are some of the things that we will be looking at in terms of how we need to address it, how we will move forward with it. But we're not talking about the banning of solar farms. Any further comments, Mr.?
The third thing I will mention is that at least two of these projects they cross over either a county line or jurisdictional line. The project on the southern end of the county is a 3-county project, so it's contingent on not just ultimate approval or disapproval from this board, but also Pitt County and Wilson County. We'll talk a little bit more about another project that's just outside of city limits of Rocky Mount. Part of that project is inside the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction. Other part is in county's jurisdiction, so that project also be dependent on 2 jurisdictions giving approval. So I just want you all to be reminded, and those that are listening in and here tonight, to know that it's not just this board that will have to take some action on at least 2 of these projects.
At this time, hearing nothing from the board, I'd like to adjourn the public hearing. What is the board's position on this? There is no recommendation. Is there a motion?
So move to adopt the 9-month moratorium.
The chair seconds.
Second.
Mr. Webb seconds. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote, saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, there's a unanimous vote. Mr. Boswell? Did we hear from Mr. Boswell?
Yes,
How did you vote?
favor.
Favor. Moving on, a public hearing is called to approve a special use permit submitted by Carolina Aggregate Sand Holding LLC, UDO special use permit. The public hearing is called to order. Mr. Peters, would you please read the public notice?
Yes, sir. Public notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners on Monday, November 4th, 2024 at 6:00 p.m. in the Jonathan Felton Commissioners Room, 2nd floor, County Administrative Building, 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina, to consider a special use permit, SUP, request submitted by Carolina Aggregate Sand Holding LLC for excavation of sand. The properties are located on Dunbar Road near Grimes Lane, Brattleboro, North Carolina, also identified as parcel numbers 480014904400 and 480025363000. Copies of the proposed sand mine are available for public inspection during business hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the County Planning Office, Room 205, County Administrative Building, 201 St. Andrews Street, Tarboro, North Carolina. All interested parties, residents are invited and urged to be present and make their views known. This is the 23rd day of October, 2024, by order of the Board of Commissioners of Edgecombe County, signed Tammy Faison, clerk to the board.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask Mr. Dervin Spell, our planning director, to come forward and give you a summary of the application that's presented.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Okay. So Carolina Aggregate Sand Holding LLC has submitted a request to operate a sand mine off of Dunbar Road, Tarboro. The sand mine, which will consist of a proposed 73.6 acres of excavation area with a total permitted area to be 87.8 acres. This will be on parcels numbers 480025363000 and 480014904400. The zoning district these parcels are located are rural residential or the AR30 district, and the future land use classification are conservation land and agricultural land uses. Also, along with this application, the applicant has requested per UDO section 6.5.13C an alternate landscaping plan in place of the type 3 buffer that normally would be required around sand mines. So this alternate landscaping plan will include a 50-foot buffer using existing trees and a 6-foot berm on the southern and eastern portions of the project, while the western and northern portion will have a 50-foot non-excavated buffer along with a 6-foot berm.
Before you leave. To the board, just want to remind you that this proceeding is considered a quasi-judicial hearing tonight, so we have to handle it slightly different than our typical public hearings. We need to swear in all of those who are going to speak tonight, so I believe we have a person or persons here representing the applicant. And also want to ask if there is anyone else who is here tonight who plans to speak during this public hearing. If so, we will have to swear you in, and we'd like to swear in everyone together, including Mr. Spell.
Let me ask one question before.
Yes, sir.
With approval of the special use permit, would that be also approving the alternate plan
If you approve it as it's presented.
as it's presented? At this time, we need to call everybody that intends to speak tonight. Would you please come forward to be sworn? Our clerk will swear you in. Go ahead.
Place your left hand on the Bible.
We have
Oh.
one more coming up.
Do you swear to affirm that the evidence that you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Now, when you come back, I'll ask you if you've been sworn. I've seen it, but I'll still ask you. Okay. I'll ask you if you've been sworn, okay?
And I hate to do,
You got to swear to the board. though.
yes, sir, I hate to do this, Mr. Chairman, but we should have sworn in Mr. Spell before he gave his summary. So, Mr. Spell, unfortunately, that first go was a practice.
He's got to give it again? Okay. So it'll be a, okay, okay. Go
Now,
ahead.
this time it will be the truth.
Go ahead. So don't let it be different now. Okay, go ahead.
Left hand on the Bible. Right.
He's already.
He's sworn.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you again, board. Carolina Aggregate Sand Holding LLC has submitted a request to operate a sand mine off of Dunbar Road in Tarboro. The sand mine will consist of proposed 73.6 acres of excavation area with a total permitted area of 87.8 acres. The parcels numbers are 480025363000 and 48001494400. The parcel is zone AR30, rural residential, and the future land use classification is conservation land and agricultural land uses.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
He said Dunbar Road, Tarboro. Dunbar Road is not, Tarboro. It's Battleboro.
Attleboro, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank
You have a correction.
Oh.
At this time,
So first, Mr. Chairman, we need to hear from the applicant or the applicant's representatives.
would the applicant or the applicant's representative please come forward? Go right ahead, sir. Please
Good
state your name, please.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Phil Hill, and I do represent Carolina Aggregate Sand Holdings. First of all, just want to say we appreciate the consideration of an opportunity to get a permit to do a sand pit in Edgecombe County. Just a little bit about us. We currently have 2 other sand pits that we operate. One is in Princeton, North Carolina, and the other is in Scranton, South Carolina. One of the things that we always strive to do is we strive to be someone who is meets the standard and goes beyond. Of course, we are all, as a sand pit, we are always required to meet state standards as far as operations, and then when we are finished, there is also requirements through reclamation that we must adhere to make sure that it's satisfactory to the state, as well as we also, as an additional thing, we also make sure that whoever we are leasing the property from, we get with them and that we talk to them, and we also make sure that we meet their expectations, which is above and beyond, and it's something that our company has always tried to do. Like I said, we long to try to have a good relationship with both the county and with our neighbors. I know he mentioned one of the things about the landscaping part, and one of the reasons for that is there is a natural barrier that is there, and it really is not necessary to change anything, because as you're running down Dunbar Road, with the natural barrier that already exists there, you would not even know that the mine was in operation back then.
Hold your thoughts,
Sorry.
man. I don't believe we got sworn, did we? Did we get
You
sworn?
don't have to.
We don't have to get
You're the
sworn.
judge.
Go right ahead.
I was
Go
sworn.
ahead.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. I
Go
was
ahead.
sworn.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, stop.
No,
Go ahead.
you're
Go ahead.
absolutely, that's fine. No, I
Go
was
ahead.
going but yeah, that's like I said, and so I don't want to take too much time, but that's what we're at, what we would like to do, and we would love this opportunity to be a business that works with Edgecombe County, and we want to be an addition to and not a negative on it. So we always want to try to be a good neighbor and a member of a county. Thank you.
Hold just a minute, sir.
Sorry, yes.
Questions? Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Exactly where are you from the caution light?
So when you
Dunbar
turn
Road.
at the caution light from, is that 97, we're about, it's maybe half a mile, maybe a half of a mile on the left.
Okay.
By the ground,
Huh?
before you get to the, rivers,
Oh, okay.
down there past them.
Okay.
And I apologize, I'm not from here. I know where it's at, I've been to it, but I don't know a lot of the folks
I
that
got it
live.
right. I got it
You
right.
got it, okay, thank you, I
She know what it
apologize.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions of the applicant from anybody that was sworn?
Anyone else from the
Yeah.
applicant to speak tonight?
Anybody else to speak?
I'm the landowner, but
Well, you can,
I don't really need to speak.
yes, that's up to you, sir, you sworn, but anybody else?
That's actually from Cash Snusher, that's it.
Okay. Anybody else that was sworn want to speak?
Yeah. Lyons family.
Come forward, sir. You can have, we'll call you back if we need you, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
My name's still Roger Sauerborn, and in addition to owning land around Canita, I also own land on 97, and started a sand mine next to Coker Wimbley School in the early 80s, and then moved to the other side of Dunbar, 95, something like that. Anyway, the site looks good. I think it's going to be a very successful site. I had a strange event happen to me in August, I think it was. I thought an LLC called Blue Ridge had leased my property. I transferred ownership of my operation in 2016 to an LLC. And then they ran that a couple years and transferred that to another LLC. And then it was my understanding the successor LLC was the same people involved as this. And I happened to come to my, okay, and then they stopped operation in April. When I happened to run across the state on my former site, it turned out that the successor LLCs had not in fact, taken up the reclamation bond. So that was peculiar to me. So I would, it's a great site, it should work real well. I would just want to make sure that the reclamation is carried out as they project. There's, like I said, I ain't figured it out yet.
We know that.
And so that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak? Is there anybody here that might be opposed to it?
Good evening. My name is Nellie Lyons, 1720 Rocky Mount. And I'm here to talk about my family property in Dunbar. At the time, we have over 4 miles and less than a 2 miles radius mining sand. And my concern is who is doing a study on the effect of this mining? Because as we know, the world is changing, and the things that are happening in the world, like sinkholes and stuff, nobody knows where it comes, but it's reading it and different things, it says it comes from like sand mining. We got a couple gravel pits less than 5 miles radius. We got 4 sand pits. Where is this all gonna lead for the future generation? How does it affect the aquatic water table? How does it affect our woodlands? How do it corrode our soil? So there's many things out there, but I know sand mining do help the economy, but how do it affect in the long run the land and our resources? And I believe it does affect it, because everywhere you hear about sinkholes and stuff that you never heard before, even the sand, fine sand, is get into your nostrils and stuff, it can affect your health. So who is monitoring these things? Some things that you think is natural is caused by the effect of how we use our resources. So we need to know it's being monitored for our effect on the land, the effect on the health, the effect on the wildlife. We need to know this, and that's my concern. Thank you.
Is there anybody else to speak?
Good evening. My name is Mary Lyons Leak, and I'm representing one of the parties concerned about this mining, the Eleanor Lyons family. We also are property owners in the Dunbar area, and we love our community. I grew up there. I was educated there, and I also worked in Edgecombe County for quite a few years until I relocated to Raleigh a few years ago. However, I do have some concerns, and because I was kind of, I won't say devastated, I was kind of surprised at some things about this mining. Not that I don't believe in progress, I do. And not that Edgecombe County doesn't need the money, we do. But, as I agree with my cousin who just stated, I'm really concerned about how it's going to change our environment, and basically how I'm mostly concerned with how it's going to change the health of citizens around in the area. Now, you know, we already have the flooding situation in the Dunbar area. All of our families, the Lyons family, all of our relatives were involved in that. They had to be helicoptered out of their homes, and we're the one that lives the furthest back, which is closer to the water bodies. And, you know, my stepmother at the time was like 80-some years old. A woman coming out of her home on the top of her roof in a helicopter, never been on an airplane. You can imagine how devastating that was. Now, I'm not saying that sand mining would cause that, but we know in our area, we do have, I call it the act of God clause. We don't know what's going to happen from one day to the other. My concern is, and I'm not an expert, but I do have a package of information where I have done some research concerning mining, and it does say that it can cause cancer, it can cause lung problems, and we know we have a lot of things, we have a lot of people who have sinus conditions in our area, and we're concerned about how this thing is going to take place. I think the thing that concerns me is not the progress of the county, but the progress of how is the environment going to be changed as a result of all this dust going on and that kind of thing. And I guess what I need to understand better is the method and all that they're going to use. Are they going to sandblast or how they do that? And I read the information. I do have a little bit of information in science, but I'm not a scientist. I'm not an archaeologist, nothing like that. But my common sense tells me that, you know, if things are not handled the proper way, it can cause considerable damage, maybe not immediately, but down the road. Another thing that I found in my research is that they said this type of sand stuff in around the year of 2050, it won't be, sand won't be around. So my thinking is, you know, it may be okay to do it right now, but what are they going to do in the future? I'm not talking about the people involved in this situation, but my concern is the world and the environment. I have grandchildren. We don't plan to give our land up. I'm not living there at the moment because during the time, by the way, I'm 78 years old, in case somebody don't know. In my time, farming was a big deal. But everybody who lives on the farm all of their lives know that you cannot live on the farm alone, especially if it's a small farmer like we are. So my father, even before I got out of high school, had to resort to doing the farm and taking a job in town in a factory. We all had to leave home to get education, to relocate, you know, so that we could have a livelihood. But our children, they have lived in the city, they grew up in the city, they want to return to a quieter, slower pace, and so do I. But what are we going to return to? That's my concern. And maybe, you know, there are a lot of things that has already been said. I'm not going to repeat what everybody has already said before us, even when they talked about the solar paneling. We're concerned about the environment. We're concerned about how that is going to affect the soil, you know, texture of everything. Now, I'm a religious person, and this may not have any place in this place. However, I'm going to say this. When it's been my experience over the years, when man tampers with the natural resources of people, of the Lord, if it's not been done properly, we make a mess of things. And I agree with the guys who already gone before me who said that people promise you the world. But how can we guarantee what they're going to do now? You know, I'm 78 years old, and sometimes from my research I also found out that these mining things can go on from 10 to 20 years. If I'm 78, I doubt seriously if I live to be 98. And if I do, what kind of state of mind am I going to be in? But my grandchildren and my children will still be here, hopefully. So I'm looking out for the future generation. You know, I'm saying everybody needs money. Yes, I do too. I'm a poor person. I'm not a wealthy person. But we have got to get a grip on how we use our resources because they're not going to be there forever if we don't take care of them properly. So my concern is, I wrote down one question is, how long is this process going to take? You know, 10 years, 50 years, whatever, I don't know. I don't have any idea how long this is going to take. And number two, what is it going to look like when it's finally done? What are we going to do with it? Is it going to be a nice recreational place where people can go and enjoy life? Is it going to be a nice natural resource like a fish pond or something that you can use to make your quality of life better? You know, what's going to happen to that big area? That's my concern about the future. Also, I mean, I'm just really concerned. We have been in Dunbar for many, many years. My family has been in Dunbar almost 100 years. Matter of fact, I think we saw the historical African Americans who lived there when the place of Dunbar got started. And a lot of people in our area, they have lost their land. A lot of things have happened. And that's very close to my heart. You know, I'm concerned about, and I'm not complaining about my neighborhood because we know we have neighbors who live next door to us, and I feel like we live very neighborly. And I know, I hope they feel that way about us. We don't try to raise up, you know, any unnecessary concern, but living neighborly also has got to be consider how is this gonna help us in the future. Now, when I say us, the whole community, the communities that surround us. We got a great big company out there now called Corning. I remember there was nice farmland, when people were having vegetables, and the way to support community, I know that we're making progress, but are we really supporting our community? Are we looking at what's going on in the grocery store? You can't go to the grocery store and buy food like you used to. The average person today doesn't know an inkling about how to grow some turnip greens or some collards or peanuts. They don't know how to survive. What's going to happen to the new generation? You know, so like I say, I'm really concerned about people in our area concerned. You know, we digging sand to make highways. We're digging this, do this, and that, and the other. But what are we going to look like in 50 years from now? Maybe 20 years from now, I don't know. Those questions I can't answer, and nobody has answered it to my ability of understanding. And I got a package of research back there we've done, and my cousins, those have also done the same research. I cannot find the answer to these questions. If someone knows them, I would like for them to please let me know. Because I feel very uncomfortable, not necessarily about the mining situation, but I feel very uncomfortable about what's going on in Edgecombe County as a whole. You know? I know we're a county that we don't have a lot of money like some people do, but what are we sacrificing at the cost of, they say, better living, taxes, for a few tax dollars? And I guess, I hope I'm not overreacting, but in a few years the tax dollar ain't worth a dime anyway. You know, I'm a person, I study money, I study money, and I study how things in the world are changing. The way things are changing in the world, I mean, what's going to become of us? To me, this is not just an issue of a mining thing, but I'm really concerned about our county. I'm concerned about our whole state. I know in my area where I live, in Raleigh, we have a lot of foreigners coming in buying up all the land. And you know what they're doing? They're millionaires and billionaires, and they're not American soil people, they're foreigners. They're buying up 50s and hundreds and thousands of acres of land, putting apartments in, driving people out of their homes. You know, that's the neighborhood where next to where I am right now. They tore those homes down, and the people that live there who built that city up with their blood, sweat, and tears, they can't even afford to get in those homes. And they're not making any amends for those people. So I'm saying that's the situation that's up there. And I looked at the map of with this mining company, where they're starting from, and it's going all the way through the Creedmoor area where I go to church, in that area. And you know, when you start digging stuff up, you're going to interrupt water tables. You're going to hit fault lines. And if anybody knows anything about geography, I'm just a fifth grade teacher. You know, fault lines and things, that's very important. You start opening those things, those rocks start shifting, then what? More water's going to come in, more silt's going to come in. It's going to be a mess. So my concern is I want everyone, in considering the fact of making progress, but what we're progressing to what? What can we answer? What are we progressing to what? And like I say, I don't have anything against progressing. And I have to admit that I enjoy having a cell phone rather than a party line like I grew up on, and everybody, you know, eavesdropping on your conversation. I know we can't go back to the day, and I don't want us to go back to the day. But as we move forward, I want us to be very considerate of our neighbors, like we used to be. You know, if we needed something, the next door neighbor will give you something. If we needed something, they give us something. And we want to have that atmosphere of people in the world. And like I said, those are my concerns. What's going to happen to our areas in the future, even the Dunbar area, very small town. But, you know, we look out for one another. And thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. Is there anybody that's here to speak?
My name is Emmy Johnson. I'm from Clayton, North Carolina. We're owners of the Lions Farm, owners of the Lions Farm there in Dunbar community. And I want to give you a picture of what I felt when I grew up. As my cousin said, everybody knew each other, the whole community. You knew everybody in every household. And people would come and go fishing in your pond. They didn't ask you, they just automatically went fishing in your pond. And when you went fishing, you just dug up your worms, and you saw eels, perch, catfish, crayfish, turtles the size of a tub, snapping turtles. Your pond would get clogged up by the muskrat. You had someone that would do trapping to get the muskrats. You had cat tails and reeds and everything on your banks. As I drove here tonight from near the Raleigh area, my throat filled with sand, dust. I'm assuming it's sand dust. Because at Springfield Road to Logsboro Road, I think I passed 7 to 8 sand pits along the way. When you look at television, the world is your example of what occurs with sand mining. Your world is an example of what happens. Out in Nevada, the water table has dropped. When the water table drops, they dig deeper to get water. After a while, your land sinks. That was a story that was done on 60 Minutes. If you look online, there's a number of stories that tell you what is going on. In Spain, the water is undrinkable in Africa because after a period of time, you start getting chemicals in your water like lead and copper and mercury. When I grew up, we could just go to a well, and the water came out clear. I didn't appreciate it until I got older and came back. I lived in an area that had mustard gas, and I wouldn't drink the water. And sometimes now I go to areas where they put chlorine in the water. I don't want to drink it because I'm used to fresh water from groundwater. But it's getting to the point between the chemicals that are put down and everything else that's done, you don't even want to drink the water. So besides those things, the erosion that the sand mining causes, because it might cause the riverbank to get wider. The silt, that little small sand that was there, it moves, or larger sand moves up. So you begin to affect, with flooding and droughts, the heavy metals I mentioned that was in the drinking waters. You get an increase in waterborne diseases. That water just stands still. The insects and everything that come and bring it. Pollution. I told you about the area of the dust that was in my throat. I left the vent open on purpose to see what would happen. So the air, the water, the soil, that dust from sand mining, it comes across your sand. And all the trucks from doing the transportation of the sand. It's a noise pollution. Loss of habitats. Those fish and crayfish and everything I saw growing up, it's a possibility of them not being there. We had wetlands. We didn't farm those wetlands. We left them there just sitting there. And then years later, you hear them saying, leave the wetlands alone. So it doesn't affect the different habitats that are along there. So besides the fish and the vegetation, those catfish and cattails and everything that are there, they might be gone. I heard about the sinkholes. I'll tell you some of the things I saw later in life. Those were the things I saw earlier in life. Early in life, we had a sinkhole. We were told, young, don't go over there. They had planted some trees. Later I find out, for a sinkhole, you plant trees around it and it might not spread any further. My parents when 97 was built, they gave sand for 97 to be built. So in the process, on our land, there's a sinkhole. One of my uncles that stayed near the sand mining, he got a kidney disease. We're going like, kidney disease don't run in the family. How did he get it? Another uncle of mine had cancer. He also stayed near the sand mining. We were going like, cancer don't run in the family. How did he get it? And also there's recreation. I noticed there was a boat ramp on Dunbar Road. And as I crossed the Tar River coming here, I noticed there was another boat ramp. When I looked down at it, the water was low. So it was like, after a while, the water table might drop. No need for the boat ramps, because just won't be there. The number of mines. You can look at the North Carolina Environmental and Natural Resource Map to see the number of mines that are across North Carolina in any one area. So all these mines from Science Digest are causing physical, biological, chemical, and anthropogenic problems. And we're looking out for our elderly, children, and future generations. I hear here in Edgecombe County, you're closing some schools already. Dunbar is basically becoming a community of sand pits. And one of the solutions for the sand pit, they were going to put in a dam. If you looked at the news lately, you saw that Lake Lure, the dam broke. The flooding in Princeville was called because a dam broke, or they released the water because that fine sand that keeps the water from raising, it get caught up in the dam. And people don't do what they need to do to take care of these things. So after a while, you're going to have a problem. Or the dam gets older. It's going to break eventually. So in conclusion, these are the reasons that I give for us not appreciating. We want the growth. We know it. Sand is called the gold, is basically, because so many things can be done with it. But as you see, with the number of, if one sand mine caused that, the number of sand mines that are in the Dunbar community is wreaking havoc.
Is there anybody else to speak?
So, Travis Grimes, as I stated earlier, I am the landowner. Everything they were talking about, the cattails, the turtles, the digging the worms up in the pond, I live across the street. I was out there with my kid doing all that Saturday. I promise you that is still well and alive. One reason we chose that site is it's back behind everything. It's hidden. It's away from everything. I know y'all probably know, as you see, that's a creek. All the flooding comes, talking about the flooding. I lived through Floyd, Matthew. I lived through this last one. I lost 200 acres of cotton. It's all flooded. I just picked it tonight. That's why I was late getting here. I was picking 1,200 pounds across the road. It's 300 pounds out there. The flooding is an issue, and if anything, a pond, I see the pond's going to take in the flood waters. It's going to help. It would be to help. I'm not an environmentalist. I can't speak to that. Phil can. He's talked to all the state agencies. They've got all the approvals from them. They've all been out there, surveyed it, looked it over, liked it. As far as I know, everything is checked off. They seem to think it was a great place. Talking about pond fishing, that's what this is going to be. When they're done, the reclamation work, my kids, they're all excited to go stock it with bass. We have an old pit we own a couple miles down the road. I carry them down there every Saturday to catfish. They fish, they carry their friends. It's going to be a great place for my kids to grow up.
Is the reclamation work, is that an agreement between the landowner and the?
It is, but the state is backed by the state. If you want to explain how that works. Do we have to wait, or?
Please come forward.
Yeah, exactly what he's talking about. We are required, in fact, we have a bond. We'll have to have a bond on the site that requires us, before we can receive our bond back when we're done, we have to do the reclamation. And there, in some of the maps as you flip through, that shows you it's 3-to-1. You have to have the slopes at a certain angle, and it has to be vegetation. around it. You have to have grass, and we have to sow different types. It's not just throw some grass seed out and you're good to go. It's different types of grass seed that will grow throughout the entire year so that we can make sure that that vegetation stays there year round. So as you know, I mean, I'm from North Carolina myself. I know I live down below Charlotte, but I was born and raised in Monroe, North Carolina. So it's a little bitty town about like this when I grew up in it. And you know, Bermuda grows at certain times of the year, fescue grows, rye grows, and that's why you mix it all together. But we are required by the state to meet those reclamation requirements that are set forth by them. And the very map that's up right now, just to give you an example, how I mentioned earlier that we not only try to meet the state's requirements, we try to go a little above and beyond with our property owners. If you'll notice the center there, you see the yellow line that comes way out, and then up above it, there's a little small one right up above it to the top there. This is additional things that we did for them that gives it shows where the property stops there. And then that extra one at the top up there is because they wanted a little pier out to there. And this is just something that we did. This would not be required by the state. The requirement of the state is making sure the slopes are right and all that. But this is what we're talking about while we try to go above and beyond. And to address a few of the things that they mentioned, we wash the sand with nothing but water. There are no chemicals. It's just water. And we have the pond on site, the freshwater pond on site. It comes off the plant, goes into a sediment pond, and it works its way back around through, and it's clean water, and we recycle it right back through. So we keep everything right there contained on site. And as Travis said, we have had all the different agencies from the state come out and do their due diligence and to make sure, because we cannot, by the state law, we cannot mess with wetlands. And in fact, you'll see the lines that go around. That's why the buffers are there. That's why the setbacks are there like they are away from, as you see, as we come in through the road, we come through a section of wetlands. All of that had to be approved by by the different departments within the state. And they have looked through that, and we're waiting for them to give us the permit, of course, but they have gone through and we've answered any and every question, and they've sent any and everyone out to inspect the site that they do. But there's not this, process like where some of and there are different ways to mine, I understand that, but the majority of what we sell it's concrete sand. You have to wash it. It has to meet a spec. So all the sand as we dig it out is put in a pile there, and it runs through the wash plant. Were there any other?
You're requesting an alternative landscape plan. From the road, do we see this land pit from the highway? Do we see it?
Yes, sir.
What kind of our ordinance, if we approve this tonight, we're through with it? Are we, as a county, through with it if we approve?
Yes, sir.
We're through with it, okay. Have we looked at we as, me and staff, anybody, have we looked at the request of the alternative landscape plan?
It's been reviewed as part of the application, but I'll let Mr. Spell speak to that.
Yes, sir. So basically, normally with sand mines or anything in the extractive industry category, would require that there be a type 3 buffer planted around the perimeters of that use, which would include a minimum width of 40 feet wide and having canopy and understory trees, and which the primary purpose is to screen it from people being able to see it
Where
outside.
this is located, you're saying it does not need to be screened?
They have existing tree lines in which they're saying, you know, that's one of the reasons why they're requesting it, because they have existing tree lines. And it is far back from the road. If you, I guess if we can go back to the aerial map. If IT can go back to that first map, the aerial map.
There's a buffer map in our packet. It shows the buffers with the existing tree lines in there. It's the fourth or fifth photo.
Yes, yes. And then if you see where Dunbar Road lines up, the sand pit, actually, if you see where the parcels are highlighted, the sand pit will be basically, you see the lighter area of those parcels. That's where the sand pit will be lining up at, which is a pretty great distance from Dunbar Road. So pretty much nobody wouldn't be able to see it. The general public wouldn't be able to see it.
Are there any questions from the board members to anybody? Any questions?
And then one other thing, assuming the special use permit is approved, they would still have to go through the site plan process, so get site plan review and zoning permit from staff.
Any questions from any of the board members or anybody that spoke?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Hill, if you would, sir, in regards to a question that Chairman Wiggins asked about, you know, if we approve this, was it a final thing for the county? And the answer is yes. But in regards to you and the state of North Carolina, the state of North Carolina still will be doing inspections and regulations that are an ongoing thing as long as this mine exists, correct?
All mines are required, MSHA is a federal agency that inspects all mines. So yes, sir, we have ongoing inspections that take place every year. We also, in addition to that, have to send in every year a map showing what we've done, what we're going to do next, and it's a step-by-step process that we have to follow. And this is required by the state for you to continue to have your permit. If you do not turn that in the fall of the year, you will lose your permit.
Thank you so much.
And if it's regulated by the state that way, then it's public knowledge for them so they can see
absolutely
what's going on with it.
Yes, ma'am. And again, as a representative of the company, I am more than happy to sit down and have conversations with any of the neighbors around that. Absolutely. I didn't know there were questions. All we did was apply for this. No, we weren't given any indication that there were any questions. If we were, I would have already taken the time to sit down to talk to them. I just was not aware of it, and I will be glad to do so.
Well, that was the purpose of this meeting.
Right.
Is the reclamation process the same wherever you go? Or is it different? That's something that you negotiate with the landowner?
We do it with the landowner. Now, as far as the state is required, the state requires the same thing. The slopes have to be a set way. There has to be vegetation around it and all like that. As far as the other things, like the other map that showed those additional things that we are adding to this as we do it, yes, we do that part with the individual property owners because, as I said, there are things that they may want in addition to, much like y'all talked about in any kind of contracts that you negotiate there, you can put wording in there that adds to anything that you want, and that's what we have done with Mr. Grimes here. He wanted some additional things added to it, and we more than happy to, sir.
Y'all got a question? Go ahead. Ask your questions. Please come forward. You can come forward.
My concern is...
Ma'am, she's going to swear you in first.
You have not been sworn?
No, sir.
Okay. Put your left hand on the Bible, please. Or you can affirm. Okay, go ahead.
Do you swear or affirm that what the information that you give to the board is the truth, the whole
Go right ahead.
I'm Edith Lyons, and I'm a in-law.
Talk up, man.
I'm Edith Lyons, and I'm an in-law. I'm an in-law of Elnora Lyons. And my concern is, when we received the letter, we did not get any notice that there was something going to occur. We just got a letter saying they applied for the permit.
They are joining property owners. They are joining property owners.
Adjoining property
Right.
owner.
Mhm.
No instructions of where this land, I mean, there was an outline map. That's it. But nothing explaining what were they gonna do after the fact, how long it was going to take, nothing like that. I called Mr. Spells and got the information. Now, we have not talked to this gentleman from the science of sand mining. I didn't know who he looked like, how he talked or anything. And so my concern is what's going to happen after the fact? What is it going to look like? Now, I know there's some recreation already going on in the back where there's water, there's cabins in the back, there's boating in the back, there's dock in the back, and I'm talking about where the water is now. Now, if that's going to occur later, we need to know who and how are you going to do that? Our roads where we go in and out of the farmlands, they are joined to the man next door where the sand mine is going to be. But we don't know if they're going to use that land to go in and out to this sand mine area after it's done. We have no idea what's going to occur. We read it, do our own research, but also the state have not approved the permit.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
As
They
of
have not.
last week,
Yes.
I talked. Okay, so there are some other questions about it. But that's my concern. What is it going to look like? How is it going to affect us? We don't know. We haven't seen anything in writing of how it's going to affect the neighbors. Thank you.
Yes. Let me ask the question, maybe for you, okay? Because I'm thinking that the board should consider tabling it and giving them an opportunity to discuss, to at least talk to the community. Can you help me with that in terms of?
You can do that. That's your prerogative, Mr. Chairman.
But I'm asking for procedurally how you think we ought to do this.
Well, you could continue the hearing if you chose.
Okay,
to.
well, that takes care of it, okay. Okay, where's the board on this?
I motion to accept. They were given notice, and sounds like they've reached out to the proper people that were given any information that they needed to do it.
Well, I'm gonna amend that motion to continue until the next, help me?
He's got a motion.
Somebody, he needs to get a second.
Do we get a second?
Second.
We got a second. Now, can I make a something?
Yes, sir. You can make it. You could suggest an alternative motion, but the board would need to vote to allow your motion to substitute Mr. Thorne's motion.
I can make this motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I motion that we continue until the next meeting to give them an opportunity to meet with the opponents of this plan. Is there a second?
Second.
So now this would be a vote to allow your motion to substitute Mr. Thorne's motion. If it were to pass, you would need to vote on your motion.
All in favor of my motion, let it be known by raising your hand.
And that's to continue it.
Right.
That's what we're voting.
All opposed? It appears that we will be continuing this hearing.
But that was,
Oh.
I know this is complicated, but that was to allow your motion to substitute. Mr.
Now we need to vote on the motion. Well, that's what I need you for. Okay, okay. So you help me with these complications, okay? Okay. Now I need a vote on my motion.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Well, you need to make it in second. Have it second.
I need to make it again? Okay, all right. This is a different kind of hearing, ladies and gentlemen. This is a legal hearing. I move that we continue the hearing until our December meeting.
I'll second it.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by you raise of your hands. All opposed?
Don't forget Mr. Boswell.
We have one opposition, we will continue this hearing. We will continue this hearing, ladies and gentlemen. It's not that I'm opposed to it. From where I sit right now, I'll tell you I support it. Okay? Okay. I'm not opposed to it, but I think the opponents need an opportunity to be heard. Okay? Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, you're continuing it to when?
To our December, what date is our December meeting?
Second.
December 2nd. Especially as it relates to reclamation. Okay? Okay. Is there any other, hearing none, we're moving on to schedule appointments. We're here to talk about I'm gonna call it an on-time audit. Okay. Move it on. Mr.
Yes, sir,
Evans.
Mr. Chairman. I'd like to invite Mr. Hunter Wiseman with our auditing firm to come forward to present the FY 23-24 audit. And following Mr. Wiseman's presentation, certainly you can ask any questions of him if you'd like. I then would like to invite Ms. Linda Barfield, our CFO, to follow him with some additional comments.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. As Eric said, my name is Hunter Wiseman with TPSA, here to present the audit results for fiscal year 2024. And I'd like to say that yes, it is an on-time audit. I do want to draw your attention before we get into the numbers. You've received two packets. One is your presentation summary, and one is the full set of the financial statements. The full set of the financial statements still has the draft watermark on them. The reason why we have that draft watermark is there are two parts in the financial statements where we are still awaiting numbers from the state. They are both going to come from the Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS. Unfortunately, the reports that DHHS released earlier in the year were found to be faulty. When they were notified of this, DHHS called a meeting and determined that they were indeed incorrect, and they are working presently to try to fix that. It has still not been resolved as of today, unfortunately. So we are having to hold off on submitting the audit report until we can get those numbers from DHHS.
LGC is aware of all of this?
Yes, sir. And in fact, the DHHS has communicated to us and to other units of government that they are going to issue a letter to the local government commission stating as much. So that way the local government commission will be informed of the holdup that many counties are facing because of this.
Do you know as of yet whether LGC is gonna accept us as timely?
The audit results will still be accepted as timely as of if they are submitted by November 30th, and we are hoping that the DHHS will have a resolution by then.
If they don't have that resolution, DHS is our holdup.
They are, yes, sir.
And if they don't have that information, what is LG, do we have a position stated by LGC?
The LGC has not stated their position yet. We are still waiting for the LGC to clarify what's their intent. I know that there have been multiple governments that have already reached out to them because they had audit reports that were ready to go, missing that one number from the state, that have now been held up because of DHHS not being able to get those reports corrected. But I do want to say that other than that number, the financial statements are final as they appear to you tonight and will be submitted to the LGC as they appear. So, to help with understanding the financial statements and making them more approachable, we prepare a presentation summary which takes the last 5 years of the financial statements results and compares them against each other to see how you're performing as a county. So if you can go with me now to your presentation summary. I'm going to start here. We have the letter of governance. This is where we're going to address the responsibilities that management has for the financial statements and also items that we've communicated to management while we've audited the financial statements. I'm just going to do a quick run through here. Management's responsible for choosing appropriate accounting policies. There were no new accounting policies adopted for this year. Last year there was GASB 96, no new ones for this year. If there were any accounting estimates that had to be made, we had to determine that those accounting estimates are reasonable. There were no significant accounting estimates that were made, and any accounting estimates that were, we determined them to be reasonable. There were no difficulties encountered in performing the audit, and this is a part where I do want to take a moment. I know we talked about it, that this is one for the first time in many years, an on-time audit report, and I'm going to consider it an on-time audit report, even if the DHHS hasn't been able to hold up their end. And it's really a time that we need to take to say thank you to your management staff, to your finance staff. They've been incredibly responsive. Anything that we could ask for and anything that we need in performing this audit, they have been Johnny on the spot to get it to us as quick as they can, because it has been the goal of everyone to try to make this an on-time audit. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. If there were any adjusting journal entries that we came across, we have already communicated those to management so that they can be posted. So there are no uncorrected misstatements in the financial statements that we are aware of. And of course, I do want to mention here, in an audit, we consider things on a term of materiality. So we are not looking for every single individual item that may be wrong. We have to approach it from the stance of we need to consider things that are material to the unit. And there are no material misstatements to our knowledge in these financial statements. There are no disagreements with management during the preparation of the audit. Communication back and forth with management is important. Whenever we are running into an issue or whenever there's a question that we have, we need management to be able to respond to us and to be able to help us. And management has absolutely met and exceeded our expectations with that. You'll see that we do have the representation letter and our opinion letter dated as October 28th, 2024. That was the date that the last change was made to the financial statements, so the financial statements have not changed since that date. We are just waiting on the DHHS confirmation. We consulted with no independent accountants during the performance of this audit. And then I do want to take a moment to cover a couple of the other audit findings or issues. We did bring it up to management that in our testing of water sewer releases and refunds, there was one customer whose bill we saw was adjusted without the complete authorization. Now, the adjustment was correct, it was valid, but there's a process that still needs to be followed according to the policy to make sure that every single step of the proper authorization is completed before that adjustment is posted. This one was posted before proper authorization, but it was still a valid release. Secondly, we've encouraged management to take a look at the age receivables. So there are a number of receivables on there that are older and are likely going to be uncollectible. You've got businesses that have gone out of business. You've got individuals who have passed away. You're not likely going to collect any of those receivables from their estates. Yes, sir. There are two findings in the audit report. The first finding relates to budget violations. The budget violation specifically relates to debt service, and that debt service budget violation is originating from reclassifications from GASB 87, which was the leases standard, and GASB 96, which was the software-based IT arrangement standard. So both of those are what contributed to the budget violation in debt service. This has been communicated to management, and management has returned the corrective action plan, which can be found in the full set of the financial statements in the compliance section, which is at the very end of the financial statements. The second finding, financial statement finding, was related to the Water District 4 revenue bonds. There's a bond covenant that stipulates that you have to exceed, I believe, 110%. The counties for Water District 4 was at 61%. Again, the corrective action plan that management has submitted has been included in the compliance section of the financial statements. There are also Medicaid findings, which are 2024-003 through 2024-007. Those are listed in the financial statements as well. The Local Government Commission requires that the board, within 60 days of the presentation of these audit results, respond to these findings and these financial performance indicators of concern to the Local Government Commission, so within 60 days of this presentation. In the other matters, I do want to draw your attention to one item in particular, which is a new GASB pronouncement that's going to be impacting fiscal year 2025. That's GASB number 101, which relates to compensated absences. So there's been a change to how compensated absences are going to be treated and presented on the financial statements. Management has been made aware of this. They're training on this, and they're working towards a solution for that. Every unit is going to be impacted by this change in accounting principle. I do want to go now to your 5-year comparison. So the 5-year comparison that we have is going to show you from fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2024, items that we feel as a firm are most important for the board to consider when looking at the financial statements. Obviously, the most important fund in the county is the general fund. That's the primary operating fund of the county. The total fund balance of the general fund decreased from 2023 from $34 million to $31.6 million. The unavailable fund balance, which is the balance that's restricted by third parties or by commitments or non-spendable, also decreased from $12.4 million to $8 million. The total non-spendable, restricted, and committed and assigned fund balance decreased from $21 million to $16.8 million. Now, I do want to note that part of the $16.8 million includes the appropriated amount of $8 million going into fiscal year 2025. General fund expenditures, including transfers out, increased to $75 million for 2024 from $71 million in 2023. Unassigned fund balance increased to $14.7 million from $12.5 million, which relates to an increase in the percentage of 19.67%, up from 17.54% in the previous year. Revenues and expenditures over other financing sources was relatively steady for the general fund at a negative $4.1 million. The water fund decreased from a $107,000 loss to a $262,000 loss in 2024. And the solid waste fund increased from a $563,000 loss in 23 to a $222,000 loss in 24. Cash for the general fund increased to $26.6 million from $25 million in fiscal year 23. Cash in other governmental funds increased to $8.5 from $4.6. Cash in the water and sewer fund decreased to $3.2 million from $5.1 in the previous year. Cash in the solid waste fund was relatively stable at $2.7 million from $2.8 million in 2023. As a comparative of the fund balances, the general fund did decrease to $31 million from $34. The fund balance for other governmental funds increased to $1.4 million from a negative $300,000. The net position of the water and sewer fund increased to $46 million from $43 million in 2023. And the net position of the solid waste fund decreased to $600,000 from $837,000 in 2023. Property tax rates have been consistent over the 5 years at 0.95. The collection percentage increased slightly from 2023 from 95.95 to 96.03. The collection percentage excluding motor vehicles also increased slightly to 95.43%. Total property valuation increased by roughly $60 million, and the total levy amount increased by roughly $500,000. Here you have a breakdown of your debt that can be found in the financial statements. A quick rundown here. The governmental debt, generally decreased from fiscal year 2023, as well as the water and sewer fund and the solid waste fund, which would make up the business type debt, has also decreased from fiscal year 2023. Now, I do want to draw your attention to business type revenue bonds. You'll see that that says $2,049,000. That number should state $4,668,000, and that one would agree to your financial statements as well in the note disclosures. Next, we have a breakdown of the general fund revenues. In general, the general fund revenues did increase very slightly, about $10,000, whereas general fund expenditures, and keep in mind these expenditures are excluding transfers, did decrease by roughly about $60,000 from the previous year. Going into the next section, we have our graphs, which help to present the same information that you've seen in the 5-year comparison. It's sometimes helpful to have that in a chart form so that we can see and how that it looks compared to all 5 years. So you can see your fund balance was increasing going from 2020 to 2023. An impact in that increasing fund balance would have been ARPA funds that were received from the federal government and through the state as well. That has been a slight decrease into 2024 now that those ARPA funds have been utilized. That I would say that this is more of a returning to a normal versus the abnormal amounts that you've seen rising out of COVID. In an analysis of fund balance available, there was a slight increase in fund balance available from 2023. Again, that's down from 2022 and prior when it had been rising. Again, you can contribute a lot of that to ARPA funding. On the next page, the analysis of unassigned fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures. There's been a slight increase from 2023. You'll notice that this chart very closely mirrors the chart on the previous page of the fund balance available. So they are correlated to each other. You can see that in 2022, that was the highest year. Again, that's the year that most of the COVID funding was received and put into place for the county. Since then, I would say that you're going to see a return to the normal operations of the county and about what we would expect to see as far as an increase in the fund balance, either unassigned or available. The bottom chart here is an analysis of revenues over under expenditures before transfers. So again, you can see that in the general fund in 2023 and 2024, it's been significant expenditures out of the general fund versus when they compared to 2022 and prior years. The cash balance and the fund balance charts on the next page give you a graphical presentation of the cash balances as they stand at fiscal year 2024. On page 10, you have a comparative chart of the property tax rates. Again, Edgecombe County's tax rate has been consistent at 0.95. For a group weighted average, that is higher than the rest of the group, which is generally at a 0.647. Unfortunately, we don't have the information to be able to complete the 2023. The state does sometimes lag in providing that. As far as collection percentages, Edgecombe County is slightly below the rest of the state or the group weighted average of 97.98 from 2023, but 96% would still be considered a very healthy collection percentage. The debt analysis here is a representation of the debt on page 5 as of June 30th, 2024. And then on the last chart page, you have a representation of the breakdown for the general fund revenues and the general fund expenditures at 6/30/24. On the last page of the presentation summary, we have our additional required communications. So as I stated at the beginning, the LGC will no longer initiate the communications with the board. The board has 60 days as of this meeting to respond to any findings. The two findings are the budget violation and the non-compliance with the revenue bond. And I will state again that management has already provided us with their corrective action plans for both of these items. Are there any questions that I can answer right now?
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I don't know who was gleaming with more pride when they used the word on-time audit. Those were my marching orders, it felt like, from the time that I walked in a little over a year ago until today. But I want to make sure that I make it well known that this was not a one-person effort. And if, with your permission, I'd like to introduce the people that helped make this happen. And on the first row, we have Joseph Magana. If you'll stand, please. Joseph is the newest member of our team. He is our financial reporting administrator. He'll be taking on more and more a key role in the audit process. And he also is taking care of our grants administration. Next to Joe is Beth Edmondson. You guys probably remember her. She's been here a while. Was the interim finance director. She stayed on part-time to help any way that she could. She's played an instrumental role in helping make sure that we were all on track and that this audit got out timely. On the back row, we have, well, actually, she's the newest member, Mrs. Sharon Wilt. Sharon is our new accounts payable person, and she's come in and jumped in and really helped us keep our accounts payable on track. We have Mrs. Shanice Battle, who does a dual role. She handles all of our revenues. She also serves as an administrative assistant to me, so she does a really good job in helping to keep me straight as well. Beside her is Mrs. Kimberly Myers. Kim Myers is our purchasing manager, and she's doing a really good job in helping make sure that we're following those new fiscal policies. Beside her is Brandy Edmondson, probably the most well-liked member of our team across the county. Brandy is payroll, and so everybody knows that when it comes time to being paid, Brandy's your girl. So I would dare say we all think we think she's most popular in the department. And last but certainly not least, we have Miss Lisa Warren. Lisa has been instrumental in making sure that our banks get reconciled. She does all of our budget amendments and journal entries. She gets those keyed into the system. So Lisa also has played a very integral role. And I just wanted to also say, I don't think she's pictured here today. She was coming, but at the last minute had to pull out. Gloria Lindecker, who has also been a part-time person, has come in and helped us a lot with fixed assets and getting that stuff straight. So I did want to mention her and give a thanks to her. And then I want to say publicly thank you to my team. I feel like I have the best team in the world. I guess everybody feels that way, but I've certainly done, and there's no way that we could have been standing here today with this good news for it not be this team of people that supported myself and our whole team as well. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could,
Go ahead.
with your permission, to ask all of them to stand that just stood. Stand up one more time.
Let's go.
Now take a bow. Thank you.
Okay. So I just wanted to take a minute to just kind of talk to you a little bit and really just add to what Hunter said with the remote control. I certainly want to augment everything that he said. We certainly have had a good experience with this auditing firm. They've been wonderful to work with, and I thought that maybe it might help provide some context, or at least help us kind of understand what some of this means on a more, I guess, intimate level. And so I just wanted to kind of point out, and I'll see if it's hard for me to see with these reading glasses, but I'm looking, you notice up here on page 5 of this, what's on the screen, it came from his presentation. And it's showing that how the audit went up slightly from last year. You know, as you know, last year we had some restricted ARPA funds, which made that percentage look a little lower. This year we didn't have that restriction, so the percentage looks a little higher. And this, in case I didn't mention, this is the percentage of our unassigned fund balance as compared to our general fund expenditures. But I wanted to make sure that the keynote that we kind of make sure that we're thinking about is down here around that 31. And this is on that presentation, and I'll put my glasses on so I can see down here. The fund balance for the general fund, what he was saying was that part actually went down. And I think that's something that we probably need to focus on. So while the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, while that did go up, the fund balance as a whole went down. So basically, in other words, we have a higher percentage of the unassigned fund balance to a smaller pot of funding. And part of the reason those expenses went down was we did do some investments in land for economic development. We also invested in the DMV building. We did invest in some other capital needs that arose. And also, due to less intergovernmental funds like sales and services, we saw a drop in those funds. We did have to dip into our fund balance to help cover the pay rate study that was implemented last year. So those are some of the reasons that it did go down. And I just want to make sure that as we're moving forward, when we begin budgeting in FY26, sure to be a topic at the retreat, we need to start thinking about fund balance and our use of fund balance and how we appropriate it, just to make sure that we keep these healthy reserves and to make sure that there is funds there at a later date when we may need them for emergency purposes or other purposes, or that we're able to sustain our operations. So that was all I just kind of wanted to point out on that front. I also did want to talk about in the actual audit book, I did want to offer our response. I wanted you to hear from me in terms of what the findings were and what we said. Now, the actual findings are on page 160 and I think 161. You'll find our response back on page 167 of the larger audit. And I'll kind of go over, in terms of the budget violation, we absolutely did agree with this finding. But we did want to say that it really stemmed from the fact of the classifications of the lease and subscription expenses. Throughout the years, those things were budgeted at the departmental level. And while the departments had adequate amounts to cover the subscriptions and leases, at the year end for financial reporting purposes, they're all reclassified to debt service. And so what we did not do was we did not move the budget from the department level over to the debt service. So we did have it budgeted. We just didn't have it budgeted perhaps in the right place. Now, I will add, as Hunter kind of stated, that the new GASB reporting that requires us to take subscriptions and leases and budget them or report them the same as we do our other debt. One of them came out about 2 years ago and the other one roughly about a year ago. So it's still new. We're still learning some of the things and the full effects of what they mean for us. So next year we'll be certainly sure that we will make sure a budget amendment comes before this board to make sure that we have a budget waiting for them in debt service, so when they're reclassified up that way. I just wanted to assure the commissioners that there was budget for them, but due to reporting, we did not have that in the place that it should have been. And then I wanted to talk about the debt covenant for District 4. We have actually initiated a rate study, and the rate structure study, my understanding is it is full in progress. It's close, but it's not been finalized. And so right now, the effects of that rate study is not yet known. Once that rate study becomes available to us, we intend to review it carefully and make any kinds of reasonable suggestions that we feel that will help us get it up, get those revenues up in that district. I'd also just kind of like to add, just for context, within that District 4, the revenues did exceed the expenditures, and in fact, the revenues did exceed the debt service. However, not to the extent that the bond covenant says we had to. So the revenues exceeded the debt service by 61%, and we were supposed to be at 110%. So I just kind of wanted to put that ease at mind in terms of, you know, yes, these are problems that the auditors rightfully pointed out, and we rightfully responded with corrective action. We intend to continue to keep this under careful review, and we'll be, our team will be talking about this throughout the rest of the year into the new audit. But just wanted to just provide some context of what we felt these findings were, and hopefully help you sort of understand. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you have regarding the audit.
Any questions?
I was looking at the, I don't know if you would explain that, 40 non-cooperation. I guess this comes out of DSS.
So DSS mostly is the compliance option of their programmatic. I can't, I don't know if Hunter could, he might can speak more. If you, do you have a specific question about it?
I was just looking at 40 non-cooperation and inaccurate information entry. Our DSS director's back there, maybe she can explain that.
Is Betty here? Oh, didn't know you were here. Yeah, those are some that might be able to speak a little bit more to the, in terms of the program.
Good evening. Yeah, that is it's actually a repeat finding. And what
Which will also be next year, go ahead.
what it is mostly, it is because when the clients fill out the application and list all of the members in the household, if the worker don't go behind them to check that information, once they, and the application is taken mostly in Medicaid, once that information goes up to child support, it becomes a finding. It becomes an error. And another reason for that is because a lot of the applications are done online. So when they submit the applications online, once it gets to the agency, it's coming in through the ePass portal, and it's just very difficult to catch the errors. What they normally do is once child support gets the application, they will call the client to come in and correct it.
I guess we're gonna have audit issues and compliance as long as we be here. So
Probably with the turnover that we have at DSS, and you're constantly training, and then they leave and you're training again, so
we're gonna have.
it'll be a repeat finding.
Yeah, it will be. It's been here ever since I had, especially in compliance. We have those errors, and I think the issue is corrective action.
Okay, but not continue to have repeated findings.
They're gonna be there.
The same ones year after year after year.
They're gonna be in compliance.
So it seems to me, and I've heard from some staff, that they don't feel like they get enough training. But as you said, I know you've had a lot of turnover. You may have trained this one, then next thing you know, that one's gone and another one's in. But that is one of the things that training and meetings with your supervisors, meeting with their staff.
They have monthly meetings. The supervisors meet with their staff monthly, and some of them meet with their staff weekly. So I guess maybe it depends on what area you may have gotten a complaint from.
And I guess I'll take the position is that this isn't, while we do have findings, it's a good audit as it relates to the findings that we have. So I just want to,
Most definitely compared to some we've seen around the state. That's wonderful.
and compare it to maybe some that we've had as it relates. So I just want to compliment everybody involved in this, and thank you for the work that you've put into this, and especially we've got a new staff director, finance, for this to be her first year. You know, I think she's done an excellent job, and that's with the support of our management team. So I just want to congratulate all of you, and even to, you know, I've seen findings as it relates, and you know, if it's a miracle if we get a clean a clean audit report. The auditor didn't do something right. Okay. Okay. So I just want to compliment everybody involved. Our job is to make sure that we correct it.
Are
And
we
that-
officially off the LGC list?
No, ma'am. So the unit assistance list is not just based on submitting a timely audit, that's part of it, but they want to see continued progress over a period of time. As of now, we're on it. We hope that by submitting this timely, relatively few findings, that this is one more step to getting off that unit assistance list.
Anybody, any more questions?
Do we need to have any kind of resolution for the state to say that this is going to be a timely audit, or do we respond afterwards if they do not fix their issue?
I think we should respond then, and thank you for saying that. These other counties, as Mr. Wiseman mentioned, very concerned about this too, because they've worked really, really hard to get a timely audit. We did get some response back from a representative, I don't know if it's official and final, but a representative from LGC, and they seem to be leaning towards counting it as timely because they're aware of it. They know this not just from us, but from DHHS as well. But we'll have to wait and see what the final word is officially from the agency.
Any other questions?
And I just, thank you, you said something that made me think. Absolutely, I failed to think probably some of the most important people on my side. One is the county manager, Mr. Eric Evans, absolutely provided unconditional support and helped me in any way that I needed. We have a wonderful executive team, Natalie Beth, Michael Matthews, and Michael Peters, always a phone call away, always there to support. Anytime I asked for something, they always made sure it got ran up the channels pretty fast. All I had to do was say the word audit, and I usually see Michael be coming around the corner, which is a good thing. So thank you for bringing that up, because absolutely we have the team that worked, but then we also had the folks, our executive team, who really were instrumental in helping us say, you can do this, we're going to help you. So thank
Takes
you.
a village.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add, I want to say, I'll work my way backwards, I guess, to Ms. Battle. I want to say to her and her team, I just want to commend them for the hard work that they put in to process you can't even imagine the number of applications that come in for just Medicaid and food stamps, notwithstanding the other programs. So certainly these are findings we don't want to get. There's a corrective action plan. They will work very hard to minimize the likelihood of those findings in the future. But with a high turnover, relatively staff with relatively low tenure in the agency, I think they're doing a good job, and I want to commend her and her team. I also want to say thank you to Ms. Barfield and her team. When Linda and I sat down at my table in my office a little over a year ago, I guess it's been, and when she accepted the job, she accepted the challenge, and she expressed it. She was happy to come home here. She had worked here before, was interested in the vision we had for the county. She knew the work that needed to be done. We had made some progress, but there's still a lot of work that needed to be done. She accepted that challenge, and we're very happy for them to be able to celebrate where we are with the audit tonight. So I just want to say thank you to both of them, and also to any other department head that had some role in getting information in on time. It takes just about every department to play a role in this. So,
And thank Ms. Edmondson also there for the interim period in terms of setting us, putting us in the direction to make those things happen. Let's thank everybody. And,
absolutely.
Moving on.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You have your next scheduled appointment, Mr. Chairman. Former Senator Mr. Fitch is not able to be here tonight, but he has in his stead Mr. Sherrod Knox, who's going to come and tell you about the Society Impact Program.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Was showing up today. I was supposed to present alongside former Judge Fitch. Unfortunately, he had an emergency, sent his regards. He wanted me to emphasize that he is a part of the program, very much supports the program, and looks forward in the future to talking with everyone and hopefully moving forward. I was actually here last year to tell you all about our program, some of the work that we've done. I'd love to update you all, refresh your memory, talk.
And I think in my conversation with Judge Fitch, I do recall you, but I didn't recall the emphasis on the expungement. What I guess the part that I was most interested in.
Yes, sir.
Was the
expungement.
Expungement,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
in terms of those of our citizens getting the full benefit of that. Go right ahead, though. All right.
Yes, sir, and I'm not going to do as good of a job as Judge Fitch summarizing
Mhm.
expungement, but happy to talk a little bit about it. So Society Impact, what we are a comprehensive reentry program, and we touch on, there's 7 different areas of service that we provide. If you're all familiar with the term, the public determinants of health, every little thing that a person needs to be able to rebuild their lives, that's what we help them in. We're an all-encompassing program. As Mr. Wiggins pointed out, expungement is a very crucial and key part to it. Since we first started, actually less than that, in the last year, our expungement clinic has seen more than 400 people, the majority of them coming over here from Edgecombe County. And expungement is so important, it's such an important part. Let me tell you all the story. We've had a few people in our program who made some mistakes in the 90s, right? They sold some drugs, got in trouble, did their prison sentence, got out, late 90s, 99, 2000 roughly area. Since then, they haven't had so much as a speeding ticket. Unfortunately though, because of that mistake they made, several of them as teenagers, they're unable to move forward. They're kept out of employment, kept out of housing as well. So what we did for them is we helped them expunge their record with our program. That service and all the other service you read about in there is 100% free to the people. With expungement specifically, the only thing that they have to pay is we ask for their certified records, because expungement is a one-time deal. You can't keep expunging your record or anything like that. So we ask them to get their certified record to make sure that we have not missed anything, and then whatever filing fee. So in total, and this is the reason why most people don't get it done, is because to go to a law firm and try to get it done, it can be in thousands of dollars. With us, they spend less than $200 in total, and all of those are fees that go to the courts. So we've had more than 400 people that have come through the program. In addition to that, with all of our wraparound services, because people have to opt in for the other services as well, we've seen more than 96 people, and out of that 96 people, we've only had 4 people go back to prison. That is a significant difference if you're familiar with the statewide numbers. There are 2 different departments that argue a little bit on exactly who is right, but we know it's between 40 and 49%. So out of every 2 people that come out of prison or jail, roughly 1 of them goes right back. So for us, 4 and 96 is, we think it's a precedent. We've been recognized by multiple members of the state legislature as saying that it is the most successful, improvement success out of any reentry program in the state of North Carolina. When I was here last year, it was talking about kind of a partnership with Edgecombe County government and kind of negotiating and moving things forward. And I understand you all have had a whole lot on your plates. Remember we talked about the Get Off the List initiative and actually some way that our program could partner with and can bring on board. We're not here to ask for you all to raise taxes or raise additional funds for us. We actually have a private equity backer. We had several. But Maycomb Capital, they're an offshoot of Goldman Sachs, and they're willing to come in completely behind us and fund us. The one stipulation that we have to have a government partner that is willing to sign and come into an agreement with us. The terms of this program can be, it's very flexible. It could be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, up to 10 years, where they'll completely come in and fund it. We'll collect data, and at the end of it, we'll be able to prove savings to you all. Unfortunately, our other backer that we had, because we were not able to make any substantive advances towards that agreement, they pulled back. So we kind of had to reshape and reform how we do things. At one point, we were operating heavily inside of Edgecombe County's jail. We had a staff that would go in. There's a hot handoff so that people had a continuum of care as they got it. That was a huge part of our success. Unfortunately, we've had to roll a lot of those programs back. We focused heavily on expungement. Our staff now is mostly volunteer, and we remain dedicated to that. But I'm here today because hopefully we'll be able to re-engage with you all. I'll be able to move forward and renegotiate and move forward with an agreement.
Well, I've had some insight on the expungement side of it, and it's successful.
Yes, sir.
It's needed.
Yes, sir.
I guess the only thing I'm gonna say is, I want you or whoever it needs to be to get with the management
Okay.
and see what it is that they think they can recommend that we do.
Okay.
But I would say that we need the expungement.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to say that it's just something because I know people that have already gotten it, and it means a lot to people.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's really an uplift. You here today, and you're lifted to here when you get this off when you can say I don't have a felony or I don't have this on my record. So I think it's something that the county should support. So I'm going to leave this until and you all get together and see what the manager can bring back to us. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. The last thing I will leave you all with, I printed off additionally some data, just kind of backing up our entire program is data-driven. We have an in-house tracking system. Everyone that comes to the program is created a profile. So everything that happens with them throughout our program, we're able to track and verify each thing. So it's not just like kind of haphazardly collecting information. We're very specific and dedicated to that data.
Where are you based out of?
We have offices in Wilson County and in Raleigh, and we're looking to open an office right here in Tarboro.
Great.
Thank you, now.
Thank you.
I look forward to bringing something back here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Public petition. Is there anybody here that would like to come to the board and speak to the board? Please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jim Wren, 704 NC 97 East in Leggett. I'm here as the Vice President of the Phoenix Historical Society of Edgecombe County, and want to announce to you that this Saturday in the Carmen Auditorium here in this building, we're presenting our November educational program, which is on the life and legacy of Dr. Milton Quigless, Sr. You may have already, I think, in your packets got the flyer for our program. It features speakers include Dr. David Nard, retired professor of history at East Carolina, Dr. Todd Savage, professor at ECU School of Medicine, Carol Quigless, who is the daughter of Dr. Quigless, Mitty Miller of the Phoenix Historical Society, and Annie Anderson of the Country Doctor Museum in Bailey, North Carolina. We want to invite the board and all the public to come out this Saturday at 11 o'clock at the Carmen Auditorium and hear more about this great person who impacted Tarboro and Edgecombe County, Dr. Quigless. And we want to continue to thank the board for its continued support of the work of the Phoenix Historical Society. And we look forward to more events in 2025 we'll partner with.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Wren. I just like to say I get to as many of these as I can. They are very educational. So if you can go, I think it's something that you will continue to go. I learned a lot about the county and the people that I didn't know. So I would recommend that anybody that can go, please go. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anybody else to speak? Hearing none, is there anybody? Did you get anything on?
No, sir. Mr.
Nothing in the mail?
No, sir.
Budget amendments, moving on.
Yes, sir. A couple of budget amendments I'd like to draw your attention to. Budget amendment number 5. This is increasing the budget for current expense appropriation to Nash County School System. When we prepared the budget, we knew that we would be going through the county line merger. So we estimated what we thought the current expense appropriation was going to be, and we budgeted that at $550,000. But we knew that we would have to true that up once both school systems submitted their enrollment numbers after the first 20 days. You'll recall that our county line merger agreement said that for whatever Edgecombe County students remained in Nash County schools, we would pay the same per pupil allocation for those as we do for Edgecombe School. So those numbers were submitted, and we need to increase the budget for that by $201,036.
Motion.
We'll also point out a couple of other ones. Budget amendment number 6, this is for increased Medicaid services, medical service, I'm sorry, for inmates. We're asking for increasing that budget from $800,000 to $900,000. Budget amendment number 7, going to ask that you hold that. That will be a part of another agenda item G. And then finally, budget amendment 7A, that is rolling forward. We had budgeted and a purchase order in FY '24 for the upfit of the new vehicles purchased in the sheriff's office. Those final invoices were not complete and paid by the end of the fiscal year, so we're rolling forward that appropriation, rolling forward that to current fiscal year, requesting that budget amendment. The rest of them are for your information. Happy to answer any questions, but I recommend that you approve budget amendments numbers 1 through 6 and 7A.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Question.
6 is not right. The purpose isn't right, and our inmates have gone down significantly, yet we're moving fund balance to pay for more medical. I mean, we don't have any federal inmates at this point, and we were paying for their medical.
Yes, but the overall cost for the inmates that we do have has increased.
These are not just federal.
No, these were all.
So what's our inmate population as of last year versus this year? I would love to know the answer to that.
I can find that out. I don't know what it is right offhand.
Okay. Why was the budget amendment never even, the top of the, I mean, it's not even, it's to allocate funds for new patrol vehicles.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's incorrect there.
So this has been reviewed by 3 people and no one noticed the purpose wasn't to allocate funds for budget
No,
for
sir.
new patrol vehicles?
No, sir. My error was overlooked.
And we don't know the reason. Our inmate population, we lost, how many federal inmates do we have? 60?
No, I think at the height was around 40.
And our expenses for medical are going up. We lost 40 inmates and we have.
Yes.
They might be older. You know, the older you are, the more expenses you have to pay.
I just have a lot more questions about that, and I don't know if we have the answers to it.
Okay.
Well, I guess what we have normally done is they answer themselves as it relates to the request in terms of what the sheriff is spending on it. I think it answers itself.
I will make one other note that when the sheriff presented his budget back in the spring, his request for this budget line was actually $900,000. We looked at the previous 3 years trend, did not expect it to need that much, but we're seeing that those expenditures coming in higher, and so that's why we support the request.
And these are actually expenditures that are coming in.
Yes, sir.
I think we need to have more guidance around that. If he requested 900, now he's coming back immediately saying he wants 900, but we approved 800 and he's lost 40 inmates. I think we need to have a little bit more guidance around that, and obviously we need to clean up our budget amendments.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sure.
So I do believe what might be missing here, Commissioner Thorne.
Would you
I
come
believe
up
there
to
was
the-
a I'm sorry. I believe what might be missing is I believe there was a memo from the sheriff when they sent that down to us that probably gave us the context that we needed. And I understand that sometimes on those budget amendments, because they are computerized, sometimes they forget to, they reuse them. We might forget to copy or fix something that we didn't before. But I think that you don't have that missing piece of that memo. We don't typically put those in. And perhaps when Eric and I looked at them, we understood the conversation, having spoke with some of the sheriff's staff and having read that memo, and we just didn't catch at the top of that description. But we'll be more careful looking at it. But I do know that there was a memo that accompanied that budget amendment to us. I just wanted to add
So
that.
you do get the breakdown.
Oh, yes. We get backup information. We just don't include
And we have-
all of that in the agenda packet.
And we do have conversations with the sheriff's staff, with their office staff, their budget person in particular. And sometimes what we understand and agree to on the phone and through conversations may not necessarily translate on those amendments, just because we all get it. We may forget sometimes that somebody will be looking at it and not have the full pieces, so we will definitely scrutinize those more.
And in our budget process is what, maybe the sheriff asked for that, is what the manager decided that time he was recommending to us, which was the difference, excuse me, in what the sheriff requested. And we didn't fund him at his original request.
And I will note that if you'll note, the date of the sheriff's signature on here was September 24th. It actually came just before your last meeting, but because we had some additional questions that we wanted answered, we didn't bring it at that time. And we've gotten some additional information from the sheriff and his team, and had some conversation, made us feel more comfortable that this budget amendment was needed.
Yeah, I'm asking questions and I'm not really getting an answer. It's just because the expenses went up. That's the only answer I've gotten.
The what went up?
He's saying that expenses went up. That's the only answer I've gotten, but you've had elaborate conversation around what it is. Maybe you should print the memos about why we need that and bring them to the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the expenses are verifiable. We can see what the costs are that have been coming in, and that shows the need for this.
But if you had questions about it, why can't you clarify why can't you clarify what the need is?
The need was because of these additional expenses that are coming as a result of the inmate population that they have.
Okay.
We gotta pay it. It's a responsibility for us to pay. If the inmate gets medical service, we're paying for that service.
It's difficult to tell. Obviously, the number of inmates is an indicator, but it is not the only driver. You just never know when they come in, what their issues are, what service they need. It's a whole lot of things that they could need when they come into our care that have to be provided.
But somebody gets a breakdown of Joe Blow and how much it was to this doctor or medication he had. There's a listing somewhere.
Oh, yes, yeah, sure.
We're paying billable, what's billed to us, right? What's billed
Right.
from the medical.
Right, that's right.
Yeah,
So
but
you
we're
get copy
budgeting
of
for the
the
rest of the year. We're not, this isn't, or
No,
else we'd have a $100,000 budget amendment every month.
We might have.
I believe it was for a contract that they asked for, like Mr. Evans said, that they had asked for budget for at the budget time, and they didn't get the full amount they needed to fund the contract, so we're just trying to give them the fund balance they need for the contract. Is that right, Mr. Evans?
That's correct, that's right.
So why wasn't that answer given when I asked the initial question?
Maybe they had to think it through.
Well, I guess the bottom line on all of this is, we gonna deal with budget amendments whether we approve them or not. And bills we gotta pay, even if we gotta move it back from fund balance. So these are things that's gonna come to us every month. And, we have to decide whether we're gonna approve them or not. Now, what was that motion?
So the recommendation is to approve budget amendments numbers 1 through 6 and 7A.
Okay, can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any additional questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes.
Could you provide us that information after, sometime later?
The number of inmates, is
Right.
that what you like? Absolutely.
Well, with permission of the board, it appears that I'm seeing that the petitioner and the community has met. I see them back, so it appears that they might have had a meeting. With permission of the board, I have a willingness to, yeah, we approved it. I don't have any opposition for us dealing with that now.
Maybe a motion to reconvene the hearing?
Motion to would that be all right with the board?
Yes.
Can I hear a motion to reconvene the hearing?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now, that hearing is reconvened, and we would like to hear from the petitioner and some of the opposition in terms of,
Do they have to re-swear?
do we have to re-swear?
I think it's still the same hearing for all
This-
intents and purposes.
Okay, please come forward.
Yes, again, I'll put my name and all that again, Phil Hill with Carolina Aggregate Sand Holdings. And we did take the time to talk with the folks who are around the mine there, and we believe that everybody is satisfied. And again, as I told them, I had no idea that there were questions beforehand, or we would have already had this meeting at their house in weeks before. So, but that's from our side of it. We still would love to be allowed to have a permit to run a sand pit here in Edgecombe County. Thank you.
Anybody else to speak?
Amy Johnson, Clayton, North Carolina. After talking with them, they explained to us their topsoil, sand, clay, and rock. Their rock is basically river rock, it's supposed to be the pebbles of sand. So after hearing that it's basically just a pond they're digging, we're okay with it.
Close it out.
After reopening the hearing, we've heard those public comments. I'm going to adjourn this, the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Second.
We're gonna act on it.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve.
Now, she seconded.
Do we have a second? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, you can go home, sir. You all right? It looks like it worked out,
I'm
okay.
the first one fish.
Okay.
Thank y'all for getting together.
Yes,
I love it.
yes.
The way it's supposed to be.
That's my community right
It might not be where it was gonna be, but yeah.
there. We live in harmony over there.
Moving on now. Number B, on other business, consideration of call of public hearing regarding the Brightleaf Solar Special Use Permit application. Is there a motion to call for a public hearing for December 2nd?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Please make sure that those people that spoke know that we're having this, okay? Next is consideration call for a public hearing regarding the Swift Creek Solar Special Use Permit application for call a public hearing for December 2nd. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We got it covered.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The public hearing is called. Consideration of approval of resolution for Operation Greenlight. Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call forward Ms. Natalie Best, our Deputy County Manager, who's going to present the resolution that you have. While she's coming, you'll note that we have green lights here in the room, as well as the front of the building is illuminated with green light for this
Okay.
special reason.
Okay. Go ahead.
Edgecombe County Resolution supporting Operation Greenlight for veterans. Whereas the residents of Edgecombe County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all of the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Edgecombe County seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually. And whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future. And whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during transition from military to civilian life, and whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service, and whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Greenlight for veterans, and whereas the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted, therefore it be resolved with designation as a green light for Veterans County, the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners hereby declare the month of November a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. And be it further resolved that in observance of Operation Greenlight, Edgecombe County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all of those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or residence from November 4th through the 11th, 2024. This the fourth day of November 2024.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Item E is regarding grant that we're receiving in our Soil and Water Office. Mr. Scott Kaiser, who's our Director of Soil and Water, has applied for and has successfully received a grant award from North Carolina Department of Agriculture through the Streamflow Rehab Assistance Program. The grant of $490,000 is for the purpose of removing vegetative debris from streams and creeks in designated areas. I recommend that you approve the acceptance of this grant award and authorize the execution of the enclosed grant contract and grant project ordinance.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Next is for a voting delegate for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goals Conference. The conference will be on the 14th and 15th. Commissioner Harris serves on that committee and plans to attend the conference, so I recommend that you approve her as your designee for a voting delegate for the legislative
Is
conference.
there a motion? Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Item G is regarding our capital projects ordinance for our loan proceeds. Now that we've closed on the loan for the construction of the animal shelter and other capital projects, we need to budget those funds. Attached for your consideration is a capital projects fund ordinance and associated budget amendment. Your approval will do the following. First, it will budget the $5,500,000 in loan proceeds as revenue. It will appropriate the $1 million from fund balance, which we've been holding in reserve to contribute to the animal shelter project. It will appropriate from fund balance $55,871 for the first loan payment, which is interest only and due in the current fiscal year. Budget part of the loan proceeds to cover cost of issuance. Budget part of the loan proceeds to the current year's capital outlay and maintenance for reimbursement of the replacement of the HVAC controls in the detention center and the upcoming replacement of 10 HVAC units in various county buildings. And budget the balance in the multi-year capital project fund for the construction of a new animal shelter and the modernization of our elevators. I recommend that you approve the capital project funds ordinance and associated budget amendment as presented. And this is budget amendment number 7, which you saw earlier in your packet.
The motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
We recently completed a compliance review with USDA Rural Development regarding several projects they have funded, namely the construction of EMS Stations 300 in Whitakers, Station 400 in Pine Tops, Sheriff's Evidence Storage Facility, Water and Sewer District 4, which is the Speed Sewer Project, and Water and Sewer District number 6, which is Sewer Rehab Project in Princeville. To finalize this compliance review, an assurance agreement and equal opportunity agreement pertaining to each project must be approved by the board. I recommend that you approve the enclosed agreements and both agree, or all of the agreements as presented.
Is that three separate motions or one?
One motion is fine.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved.
Item I is regarding the amendment to a grant project ordinance. You previously approved a grant project ordinance for state grant funds received from Edgecombe Community College for the purpose of purchasing and repurposing the former incubator building at Fountain Park. We will receive more funds in this project from the community college because of interest accrued and additional grant funds they received. Therefore, we need to amend the grant project ordinance. I recommend that you approve the amended grant project ordinance as presented.
Motion? Do you need to do Ms. Harris think? She's all right.
Yeah, I don't think she needs to excuse herself.
Motion? Is there a motion? Chair moves.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. All opposed?
All opposed.
One opposition. Next.
Next, you have an updated vehicle use policy, and you'll see that we've made some relatively minor improvements or changes and improvements in the policy. I recommend that you approve the policy as submitted.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions?
Was there anything that stirred this along that suddenly brought this up?
We just have not reviewed it in a very long time. We've reviewed and updated a number of our policies, and this is one we had not.
Somebody was driving on not to. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Manager nice about it. Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
Next is a proposed resolution to recognize November as Native American Heritage Month. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll stand where I am and read the resolution.
Go right ahead.
For those who may not be familiar, I'm a member of the Hollowassaponi tribe in Holliston, North Carolina. Very proud of my family's heritage, and so thank you for considering this resolution. Whereas Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners acknowledges the rich and diverse cultural heritage that has significantly shaped our county, and whereas North Carolina is home to one of the largest Native American populations in the United States, with historical roots stretching back thousands of years and boasts the highest Native American population east of the Mississippi. Edgecombe County has deep connections to Native American history, once being home to several indigenous tribes, particularly the Tuscarora Nation, whose presence remains an integral part of our shared heritage. And whereas Native Americans have made and continue to make meaningful contributions to the social, economic, cultural, and political life of our state, county, state, and nation. I will note that I believe I may be the only Native American county manager in the state. If not, it might be one others, but one of a few. Whereas the month of November has been nationally designated as Native American Heritage Month, providing an opportunity to recognize, honor, and celebrate the rich cultural traditions, contributions, and history of Native American peoples. And whereas it is vital to foster awareness, appreciation, and understanding of the unique heritage, traditions, and ongoing challenges faced by Native Americans across the United States and indigenous people globally. Now therefore, being it resolved that the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners officially recognizes the month of November as Native American Heritage Month in Edgecombe County, North Carolina, and encourages all residents to join in celebrating and learning more about the invaluable contributions of Native American communities to our society.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions?
No, not a question, but an invitation to all of you that we will be celebrating Native American Heritage Month at Community College on our Tarboro campus, as you see in your book, on November the 8th. 10:30, we are hoping to have young people from across the county, Edgecombe and Nash County, coming out. And then again, about 5:30, we're hoping that our adults who've gotten off work will be able to come and watch the celebration. We are excited. This is the first time it'll be held in Edgecombe County and at Edgecombe Community College out on the grounds. If the weather holds, if not, we will move it inside to Caheem Auditorium, but I think it's gonna be an exciting time, especially for our young people. So I encourage you to bring your young people, if you can, that morning or that evening. And it is a free event. There will be food trucks available, and I'm looking forward to getting to taste what's called fry bread that my supervisor keeps telling me is something I really need to eat. So I've already got my little ticket waiting to get that. So we encourage everybody to come.
That's Friday morning, 10:30. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, let me know by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on, Ms.
Item L is regarding designating our map review officer. General statutes requires the board designate by resolution staff who will serve as our mapping and land records review officer, as well as alternate review officers. Presented for your consideration in this resolution is to designate Mr. G. Ray Wilson, our GIS coordinator, as our review officer, and Teresa Lewis, Caitlin Keel, Timothy Williams, Morgan Deans, and Durbin Spell as alternate review officers. I recommend that you approve the resolution as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let me know by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, so done. Next.
Item M, some years ago, the state of North Carolina required all counties to have both a child fatality prevention team and a community child protection team. And those committees meet, ours meets jointly. They meet to review any instances of child fatality or child neglect or abuse. They discuss the findings of it, determine if there's anything that could be done to prevent similar situations in the future. It's a very important group that meets regularly. Effective on January 1 of 2025, all teams will operate as a single combined team. So instead of having two separate committees, there will be one committee. The new committee will just simply be referred to as the local team. They've also given the option to counties that they can either continue to operate as a single county team, or they can create these teams across county jurisdictions. And the recommendation from Michelle Etheridge, our health director, and Ms. Battle, our social services director, is that we remain a single county team. So we just need your approval to confirm Edgecombe remaining as a single county team.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Question. All in favor, let me know by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Next, you'll see that you have appointments for the Human Relations Commission. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Human Relations Commission. We're fortunate to have one here in the county. The HRC did go through a period of relative inactivity, but is now re-engaging as a group and ready to serve for the purpose for which it was established. Part of that re-engagement involves reviewing the membership list of appointees and confirming we've confirmed willingness and ability to serve. We also need to reestablish their appointment terms. The following members have confirmed their willingness to continue to serve. They are recommended for reappointment at the noted initial reappointment term. So we're going to basically restart, if you approve, their initial terms, so that we can stagger some of the members and they not all rotate terms at the same time. You'll see the three listed: Commissioner Harris, Madam Clerk Carol White, and Councilwoman Deborah Jordan, elected officials to serve an initially reappointed term of 3 years, and then Dr. Glenda Knight, Mr. Joseph Bocook, and Ms. Mary Hinton to serve initial reappointment term of 2 years. There are 7 other seats available on this on the Human Relations Commission, so certainly if you have anyone that you'd like to appoint either tonight or in the future, you'll have the opportunity to do that. I do recommend the reappointment of these at the aforementioned terms.
Motion.
So moved.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. After this and releases, anything to be brought to our attention there?
No, sir. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Motion. Motion to approve. Is there a motion?
Second.
Question. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Contracts review, go ahead, Ms. Evans.
You see that you have 6 contracts before you. 3 of these are for sole source approval. Reason being, these are for systems that we have in place and need to use the same vendor. For that, also, the jury administration system is a state-approved vendor for jury selection software to use. I recommend that you approve the contracts as presented.
Motion.
So moved.
Second. Questions. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next, Ms.
For department reports, I'll call Ms. Barfield to give a brief overview of her monthly financial summary.
Go ahead.
Good evening again. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. Our revenues, our governmental revenues are coming in steadily. We've collected about 17% of our budget. We've also spent about 25% of the budget, with the primary spending being in public safety, human services, and education. On the proprietary funds with water and sewer, their revenues are exceeding their expenditures. This time we have no concerns with water and sewer. And then at solid waste, revenues are not coming in as strong as we would like, and revenues are just slightly below the expenditures. So we'll be keeping an eye on that and working with our team at the solid waste to make sure we're doing all we can to get the revenues up.
Any questions?
Unless you have questions, that's it.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call up Mr. Kelvin Jones, our Parks and Rec Director, and give you a brief overview of some of the things he's been doing.
Good evening. All right, first I would like to say, it is an absolute pleasure for me to be here. As long as we be here, I still enjoy being here. All right, I would like to say, last time that I stood at this podium in front of this board, I discussed recreation and how it would fit into Edgecombe County Parks and Recs moving forward. I started with how the word recreation means to provide leisure. So I hope my report displays that leisure that we're trying to provide not only for the residents, the workers, but the children of Edgecombe County, touching all 3 age groups and demographics. First, we'll start with Special Olympics, Edgecombe County. As you know, we've had Special Olympics in the county for quite some time. As of 2025, Edgecombe County Special Olympics will be held under Edgecombe County Parks and Rec. As of 2 weeks ago, I've completed my local coordinator training with Special Olympics North Carolina, a 2-day course as well as 3 workshops that will start in January. For the 2024 Spring Games, which we host yearly at Tarboro High School, I will be the local coordinator under Thomas Perkins, who is the coordinator currently under Tarboro Parks and Rec. So my job will be for the next year to assist him any way possible and learn the tool of the education to take me to lead the program. Edgecombe County mini grant is normally in the spring. We decided to move it to the fall because of all the programs that we have for the spring. We had 20 applicants stretching across the county from Dunbar to Pine Tops, Tarboro, Rocky Mount, try to make sure that we are being inclusive and including the merger and everybody, trying to just be inclusive and think about everyone. 2 notable changes that's been made to the Edgecombe County mini grant process, 2 caveats that I have personally made. One, the implementation of a 1-hour educational course for the nonprofits that are selected. Reason being, for some individuals, they could be their first grant receiving. So you need to be educated on the proper way to receive, but not only that, but the proper way that we do it in Edgecombe County. It's something that I proposed in my interview by me being a former recipient of this grant and me having my own trials and tribulations when it came to the time to receive monies that were allotted. Right, so now that I'm in the position to change that and modify it, that's the one thing that I look to do up front. And with that being said, something as small as a W-9 can stop an organization from receiving a paycheck, from receiving their allotment. It could take 30, 60 days, right, over something as small as a W-9. But if you don't know that that's required by Edgecombe County, it's not something that you're thinking about. You're gonna come to the ceremony, say, I got approved, and now it's, hey, I see this organization received their check, this organization received their check, where's mine? So then that becomes, as Edgecombe County is moving slow, right? Where in actuality, just communication up front would have played a big part in that. All right, ECPS tour. So I am a ECPS kid from K through 12th. I graduated from Tarboro High School. So for me to be in this position, it is very important for me to not only tour the county, to meet different people in groups that are doing like-minded things that we can expand on, but it's also important for me as the director of Edgecombe County Parks and Rec to get into the school system, have the kids know my face. This is a brand new initiative, so we need to get the word out. Just this month, the month of October, I've toured 6 schools here in ECPS. And we will keep going. This week is testing, so we had to take a pause, but then next week we're right back on it. I have a tour of West Edgecombe and Princeville Elementary, to be exact. So we have a PBIS, so Positive Behavior Intervention and Support. Are initiatives and programs that are put in place to boost positive behavior within a school system. So it can be something as small as a pizza party, it could be a field trip, something that aligns with what this generation would like to do, right? It's an incentive for behavior as well as academically. My time teaching in Nash County, they have several different initiatives that I feel like we could take place right here in Edgecombe County, and it's the perfect time to do so. The proposal of an Edgecombe County Elementary Basketball League starting this year, and just a couple of things that this could create: fundraising for ECPS, sense of community by us once again having those 4 new schools come from over here. That's new families, that's new kids. We have to make them feel a part of Edgecombe County, not just on paper, but socially. This would be one of the best ways. Not only that, no one has to be inside of Edgecombe County as far as those kids. So if I'm a 3rd grader, 4th grader, I look forward to playing to elementary school basketball. Because of this demerger, that opportunity was taken away from me. That is not fair, right? If we have the opportunity to provide that and give that back to these students, these families that we have took in, we should. Logistics have been put in place, from where the games will be housed, who's going to pay for uniforms, referees. Everything has been put into place pretty much, planned out accordingly by myself. For this initiative, I have named a chair, which would be Principal Saunders of J.W. Parker. Meeting log. For the month of October, Edgecombe County Parks and Recs have partaken in 25 meetings, including a meeting tomorrow with the Rocky Mount, a meeting and tour with the Rocky Mount Event Center tomorrow, as well as Special Olympics budget and accreditation meeting Thursday. If anybody would like to comment, concern, questions on anything I presented today, please do not hesitate to reach out. By these being very personal and dear to me, I will talk about them all day long with you guys. Any questions?
Any questions now?
No, but I appreciate, especially the last comments about the kids, because the kids at D.S. Johnson parents were really upset that they may lose that because, as some parents said, that's the only reason my little boy keeps going to school.
Yes, ma'am.
Because he gets to play basketball, and he knows the only way that he can play basketball is he's got to stay in school and keep his grades up. So I'm glad that we're going. And Dr. Bryan told me that he would look into that. So
Yes, I have. I've emailed Dr. Bryan. We spoke, and right now I'm gathering my letters of support. Right now I have 6 principals that's on board that I should be receiving those letters this week, and I will double back to present a time that I can present to Dr. Bryan a final plan. But yeah, that it is a goal of mine, and it's something that's very near and dear to me by me seeing the social impact of it. And not only that, but like you just said, if it's something that we can provide, we'll be doing a disservice by not providing it.
Well, I'm gonna see other than being your goal, I'm gonna say that's the county's goal, okay? Okay, I'm gonna give you some support on my goal, okay? I'm gonna make it the county's goal. Any objections to that? Hearing none now, you got a county goal.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
it will help with get off the list.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll add, speaking of that, Kelvin serves on one of our advisory boards, Health Equity Advisory Board. In fact, we've now selected chair and vice chair. He's chairperson of that
yes.
advisory board. One of the priorities, and Ms. Best will give an update on getting off the list in just a minute, but the Health Equity Advisory Board, they've selected, narrowed down their priorities so they can more focus in on, and one of those was creating more access to opportunities for recreation. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, moving on, Ms. Evans.
Under Manager's Report, and by the way, you'll see that under Department Report, you have the Water and Sewer Update from Mr. Mosley, the Solid Waste Report from Ms. Mosley, Solid Waste Director. If you have any questions about that, let us know. In the Manager's Report, you have my major events and updates, workforce development indicators, and the monthly TDA financial report. I'd now like to call Ms. Bess back to the podium. She's going to give you a brief update on the work we've been doing recently with getting off the list.
As a part of our ongoing Get Off the List initiative, we asked those seeking discretionary funding from the county to present how funds would be used by their organizations to work towards the Get Off the List initiative. A committee was formed to review funding proposals, and as a result, we were able to fund 9 local organizations with the $200,000 that you all had budgeted and approved for this initiative. The check presentation was held on October 10th, and funding agreements are in place. So that part of the initiative where we have asked our funding partners to kind of connect their work with Get Off the List is in effect now. Additionally, our advisory boards have wrapped up their 4th round of meetings and are now at the point of setting priorities, like Mr. Evans just mentioned, in their respective focus areas of affordable and safe housing, health equity, youth and family supports, and education and workforce development. And they are now working closely with those already involved in those focus areas to help build support structures and enhance already existing structures to increase their impact. So we're at the point with the advisory boards now where they are reaching out to other organizations and trying to determine what work's already being done that we can collaborate with, piggyback off of, to create the desired outcome. Any questions?
Are we seeing interest from your committees?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, we're very fortunate that the folks that you all appointed to our advisory boards are very active, very passionate about the work that we're doing. So, you know, this is long-term work, right? So we're building momentum. It takes time. We're building the foundation of it now.
Takes time to keep interest.
Yes, sir, it does. But the folks that are on these advisory boards are very, very committed to the work, so.
Any questions, comment? Moving on.
Nothing else. You have, as Mr. Wren mentioned earlier, you do have a copy of the flyer for their event coming up this weekend, but nothing else on the manager's report.
Anything from commissioners?
Only wanted to just everyone have positive thoughts going for Director Sproul tomorrow as a good election goes on. he does a great job, and I had a concern about a polling site the other day. I called him, and he was there within 5 minutes. He does a great job of making sure that everything is going there, and his team and all of that. So everyone send good vibes for a good election tomorrow, and thank that whole team for the work that they do.
We know after Tuesday morning. Won't we?
That's right.
Any other comments? Hearing none. Attorney? We're gonna work you today, huh? You all right? Oh, yeah, you already had yours. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we have a closed session to discuss economic development. Is there a motion to go in?
So move.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed at this time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. It's been I'll be going into executive session. Thank you. It's in Edgecombe, in our jail. How many can we hold?
260, I remember. I remember that.
We up there. We might have contracts with other jails.
That doesn't make any sense, because our revenues haven't gone up.
No, they said it was down to 140 and going back.
All right. 204. That's a strong, that's a high population.
We're back on there, Mr. Chairman.
We are.
Yes, sir.
We are now in oversight. Is there any business coming over?
No other business. I will, Mr. Chairman, just remind you all that the groundbreaking for our new animal shelter will be on November 22nd at 11 a.m. Of course, as you know, it's right out next to the Sheriff's Office Detention Center. We hope that you all can come and join in with us to celebrate that big step.
Got a lot of gold shovels ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, nothing else from staff, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let me know by vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, thank you for your patience.
And let me
We
correct my
stand adjourned.
statement. 240 is what we can hold, we got 213.
Okay, yeah, okay, okay.